people that want to buzz me for a lot of the damage I've done.
Yeah?
I just don't want to get in trouble for it again.
You've gotten in trouble in the past. What happened?
I got in jail a couple times.
But you still do it?
Hell yeah.
You're now tuning into All in the Bag.
All right, how you feeling?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Take like a deep breath.
Oh.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of All in the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Myan, the show where I sit down with writers from around the Bay Area and we talk shop. You mind if I say where we're at, or
Sure.
General area?
Yeah.
So for this episode, I'm actually not in the Bay Area. I'm traveled down to Southern California, hanging out with a guy that's put in tons of work. You might know him for burning across America. When he's in a yard, there's definitely no safe. What was I saying? No safe freight. I always have an intro in my head, and then I always fuck it up when it's actually time to record. 'Cause I get hella nervous, because it's like I only record these like once a month. But yeah, he's known for burning America. When he's in a yard, there's no safe freight, just because he's one of those damn kids. I'd like to bring onto the show Jase.
What's up, everybody?
What's up, dude? Before I get into the episode, I do want to talk about our sponsors. I want to I got some gifts for you. So I brought like a little baggie. So big shout out to the homie Club Ghoul. You can catch him on Instagram, Club Ghoul 667. I mean, I'm sure you have unlimited access to mops, but this is a refill called Famine. It is a stainer mixed with metal etch. So if you want to put that on a mop,
Oh, wow.
you can get some, long running tags.
Okay,
so
cool.
That's for you. So if you guys want etch, mops, ink, silvers, whatever it might be, Club Ghoul 667 on Instagram, and you can find his website and buy from there. Second sponsor is me. So with the sticker printing business, Left Coast Signs, I offer all kinds of sticker printing. So I printed you some holographic pictures.
Wow.
As well as like a bunch of
Oh,
eggshells.
man, those are cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
Right
I scoured the internet because obviously, the majority of your freights are all, doing from the bottoms.
Yeah.
So I looked everywhere for a complete throw. I just went on Flickr for like hours and hours, and finally I found one, and I think it's in Spain because the roll down looks very much similar to like Spain style roll downs. So like I took a flick of it and then I traced it, and so yeah. So these are eggshells. Obviously you can do whatever you want with those. So these stickers are for you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, for sure. And then recently, I got a laser cutter and engraver, so I made you a little wood piece.
Nice.
With your throwing on like a sea line. So that's for you. And then the last gift is just I flicked this like 15 years ago, but I got you a hard copy of Soap.
Oh, wow.
There's one still running to this day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just saw a photo of that the other day on Instagram, and it's amazing that that's still there.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Bill.
Yeah. So yeah, I flicked this, and I wanted to give it to you just as a gift.
Thank you,
because I
man.
know he's your homie. And, yeah. All right. So I'll put that back in the baggie, and I'll just leave that for you here. But yeah, anyways, so to get started into the episode, as always, I like to start chronologically at the beginning, just to kind of break the ice and get into the conversation. How did you get into graffiti? Do you remember roughly the time period, and what was kind of like the atmosphere to get you inspired into graffiti?
Okay. Well, it was in the mid 80s, and I think probably the first introduction to graffiti was flipping through channels and came across PBS, and Star Wars was on TV.
Okay.
And it was right at the moment where Cap was talking about more, and they showed him like doing throw ups and like walking down the line and lining shit and stuff. And I was just like, what is this?
Sick.
And, when you never see anything like that before, it's just extremely mysterious, especially like the setting of that age in New York. And, you're almost like thinking like the Warriors movie and stuff. You're like, man, this is like some wild, like, where is this? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I picked up a marker or anything like right then, but maybe
it just was something that was impactful.
It was impactful. And then I think it happened, another time I came across it again, and I think I seen it from the beginning that time.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it's not like you had like a DVR or anything like that like today. Right?
No,
It's just
we
what
had
you saw
like
is what
8
you saw.
channels on public television back then.
That's wild.
I think I seen the whole thing, and it was just blew me away.
Yeah.
And of course, that happened to other people too, of my age group. And so like I found a few other people that were like, oh yeah, graffiti. And then you start to notice tags around like your neighborhood or the part of the town you live in.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're driving around the city with your friends or your family or something, and you start noticing tags. And
yeah,
I started to notice it here and there.
Yeah. Did you have any friends or anything like that were like catching tags that you're like, oh shit, like?
No, I didn't have any friends
okay.
that were catching tags. Of my friends, I think I was the first.
Oh, okay.
And we all kind of like, it just all happened at once, kind of like, oh yeah, let's get into this now, kind of thing.
Sick.
And started catching some tags here and there, and like we were talking earlier, it's like you can't. When is to say when you first started writing is like there's no real set time, because you get into it and then you lose interest in it, and you get into other things, and then you come back to it again, and the same thing, and that cycle kind of repeats over and over until finally maybe you start to learn a little bit, you get like a little bit better, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to apply this a little bit more, and then a few years down the road you find yourself doing it all the time, and you're like, okay, now I guess I write now. But you don't think that. It's like in hindsight you're like, oh, it's when I started writing.
Right. That's like much more organic way of going about it, because you're just doing graffiti for graffiti's sake.
Right.
Yeah.
So
there's no Instagram for you to like post to get instant fame and recognition. You're
No.
just like doing it because it's the thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to impress like the kids in your neighborhood, or
right.
You're just like trying to, and you want that aesthetic of what you saw in the movie, or their subway art came out, and I think me and my friends had like heard about the book, and so we had like cut school one day. I think I was in like 10th grade. Took the bus downtown. We went to the public library in Baltimore, and we looked it up on the card, and they were like, oh, that's missing. Like,
For sure someone racked that.
Of course it is.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like Baltimore, like what was the scene like back then? Like what how often were you see like fill-ins or tags street side, or was it like
you didn't really see fill it in throw-ups was not a thing yet.
Yeah.
Tags was as same as like in Philly. Most of it is around hand style.
Okay.
Like right on a busy corner. Like nice
spots.
Nice big hand style. Yeah.
Yeah.
At that age, I wasn't super mobile, so I didn't get around to a lot of the city.
Yeah. It's just like your general neighborhood is what you're fucking up.
Yeah, and there was like some instances where some kids from the city who were already good at graffiti had come into like my area and caught a few tags, and those were like probably the most influential. I was like, wow, look at that, that's
sick. Any names that you can think of?
Well, Jam One was the main one, and he pretty much was the guy doing like most of the tags. Him and there's other people too, but those guys really didn't come into my part of of Baltimore County.
Okay.
So I didn't see them as much, but
gotcha.
Jam and Zeke were like the two people who were like had like the sickest tags, and there was Ashar. I mean, definitely there's countless others. I don't want to forget anyone, but people that had like the most impact. And so that was like the spark to be like, I'm gonna go get my friend to drive me around and jump out at this intersection and do
sick.
Like a tag on the corner here.
Yeah. Drive.
Right. My girlfriend or whoever it was. And
yeah.
Of course had to get paint, and like, when you're 15, 16 or whatever, it's like even a can of paint is like unobtainable. You have no job. I don't even have I didn't have an allowance or anything that.
Yeah.
So, you have to start with like racking one can of paint, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And starts there,
Right. Okay. Yeah, were you like going to your like local hardware store and just like figuring out, or like what you were finding in like, you know, your dad's garage or something?
No,
like
there was
that?
no finding spray paint in the garage.
Okay.
There was no garage, but
Yeah, fair.
yeah, I mean, I went in some hardware stores and, you know, or department stores and would get like one can of paint and did some like tags here and there. And I did, you know, like some, I don't want to say, kind of like outlines of straight letters. I don't want to call it a straight letter. It's like an outline of a piece, you know, maybe with some 3D. I did like under some bridges or at the skate park or something like that.
Like a hollow?
Yeah, kind of,
Sick.
yeah. Not a throw up, but not a piece. So it's, you know, it's like doing your sketch.
Yeah.
And then like putting some 3D on it, you know?
Right. Okay. And like when you were getting into graffiti in Baltimore, you know, was it like, okay, so you saw obviously like the jock spots of like corners and sick ass hand styles. Were you finding places like, you know, creek spots and stuff like that, like lurking, kind of like, oh, there's some shit under the bridge, or like the train tracks are nearby, like a, you know, train wall?
Yeah, like things that were like in my part of West Baltimore in the county. So,
Okay.
You know, it still wasn't really going in the city much at all at that age. But
Gotcha.
Little spots, like I said, the skate park and under bridges and some cutty spots, and like definitely what I thought was adventurous is nowhere near what it is now, you know?
Right.
Like people are still finding spots like, why did I not think of that? Like walking down that
Damn.
path to that, finding that little bridge, you know, like.
Yeah. Okay. And before we hopped on, you were talking about how you were getting into BMX, and you said like some of the earlier pieces that you did was like at the skate park.
Yeah, there was a skate park across the street from my high school, a cement park.
Okay.
And so, you know, I rode my BMX there, and I also did graffiti there. And there was a place where like you hung out. If you cut school, you go over there and hang out. I mean, it's where I, you know, cut teeth on a lot of things, fighting.
Yeah.
BMX, graffiti.
Yeah. How deep did you get into the BMX?
Pretty deep. I mean, I rode half pipes a little bit. I did dirt. I tried racing a little bit. It wasn't really my thing, but I really like street BMX.
Okay.
I still have a BMX.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick. How's your knees?
Still scarred from that era.
Yeah, I tried to get on a BMX actually not that long ago, and it's just funny because, you know, obviously it's meant to be like a smaller bike so you can do things with it, and I was just like, God, this is what I used to ride back in the day, you know, and like, you know, like early 2000s, you know, late 90s, whatever. It was like we had the, you know, the fucking handlebars like super forward and stuff like that. It was just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, it's like nowadays it's like so frowned, like what? No one does that.
And the seat, like at like a comfortable seating position, you know.
Yeah, I slammed it all the way down.
Yeah.
Oh, good times, man. All right, word. Okay, and so what, you know, from getting tags, you know, on and off, like when do you think was a time that you were like, okay, not like you said, right? Oh, I'm a writer, but like, okay, this is kind of around the time period where like I'm actively, you know, getting it.
Well, I mean,
tagging.
it kind of at times it advanced quickly, and at other times it would totally fall off. I mean, I did a couple full color pieces around. I could be wrong, but around 85, 86, maybe 87. I did a couple here and there, a little further away from my house, in different county.
What was the heat like back then? Like, were you worried about getting caught or anything like that? Or like, you know, was it something that was
no, because I was young and I thought I was invincible.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't doing, you know, pieces in super hot spots. I mean, they were like under bridges and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 87. That's when I was born.
Wow.
Fire. Okay. And then, so on and off, like how long do you think it would be like the stints of like, oh, I wrote for like, you know, a year and then I'm kind of like focused on this right now and this and that.
I mean, it varied, you know, sometimes it'd be like months and other times it would be like, I don't know if thinking back about all the different things that happened, I'm not sure if it ever went like a whole year, but, at the same time that graffiti came into my life, other things started with like the dudes that I was hanging out with, you know, just like you've heard of New Jersey Drive, like in Baltimore, like stealing cars was like the thing, you know, and it's like everyone I knew did that for fun. It was like an everyday thing. and sometimes multiple times a day.
Sick.
And that leads into other things like burglaries and shit. And then I really started getting in trouble. I ended up in jail. I broke into the Chevy dealership with my friends, and we stole 2 brand new Corvettes from inside the building. And
how'd you get him out of the building?
we opened the door.
Like a roll down door?
Yeah.
Okay, fuck. Sick. What year do you think that was?
That was 86, I think, because
okay.
Like, it's a long story, a lot of shit involved with everything that happened there. I ended up getting called for that later, and I went to it's called training school in Baltimore. It was like juvenile jail for like a couple months, and then I got out and I was allowed to go back to high school. And then when that happened, I was like the badass at high school, even though I wasn't
you're
really
the cool kid now.
Right, I wasn't a badass, but I had seen things, and done things, and
damn. Okay, so 1986, the Chevy Corvette was 230 horsepower with 330 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah, I wrecked it.
Oh shit! Did you? Oh fuck!
Because it was a stick, and it was the first stick shift I ever drove.
Like period. Like you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
today I'm learning.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Fucking, you're a fucking G for that. The first stick I ever drove, I bought I was telling you earlier, I had a 1987 Acura Integra, the first gens, and I found it at it was like a charity spot, for like $900 in Petaluma. So I drove up there, sit in there. I'm like, cool, let me buy it. And I hand him $900, and I look down. I'm like, oh fuck, it's a stick. And he like laughed. He's like, you're an idiot, but I'll teach you how to get into first, and then you figure it out from there. And
Yeah.
I stalled at least like 150 times, because obviously San Francisco traffic. It's like once you get in there, you're fucked. And
I learned that
yeah,
it's easy to learn the very first steps if you do it in reverse, because the reverse doesn't stall out as easy as first gear.
oh shit,
Yeah.
It's funny because now it's
If you have the space to do that.
yeah, I mean, a Chevy showroom, I don't think is like a good space for you to reverse.
Right.
Okay, sick. All right, so yeah, so you're.
But yeah, we weren't stealing Corollas back then. I mean, we were going after
Yeah,
Porsches and Corvettes, Maseratis and shit.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, that's fucking crazy, dude. Racking a Maserati and what the fuck? I gotta look this up. Hold on. This is great. Fucking 1986 Maserati.
Bi-turbo, hardtop and convertible. The Spider.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they weren't super.
Oh shit, these are sick. Dude, these are so fire. Oh my god. And so back then it was about 13,000 to buy one.
Just crazy, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, so fucking what is the equivalent of 13,000 in 1986 to today? 37,000. Which is crazy because now Maseratis are like fucking bread.
Yeah.
Like they're like 100K, right? Ish.
Yeah. But, like
way out of my spending limit.
yeah. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I think when I bought my first car, it was a Pontiac Fiero. I want to say it was like $7,000 or $8,000 or something, which sounds crazy. And like, I remember I saw like the
You get it off the lot?
yeah, I saw the paperwork on my dad's Chevelle SS from like the 1969, and it was like $2,000 brand new.
Crazy, dude.
They're worth like $150,000 now,
dude.
if they're perfect condition.
Yeah, dude. Like the Grand National is like $100,000 easy. I seen a dude in Oakland who's got like 7 Grand Nationals, and I was like, wow, this fool's like a millionaire. That's fucking
Drove
gnarly.
one of those too.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I would love to just even sit in one, man. That's a hood classic for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
So yeah, anyway, that shit was getting me into massive amounts of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It was also bringing like more unpredictable friends into my scope. That there's no honor among thieves, and things
bummer.
starts to like unravel pretty quickly.
Yeah, because you can't trust the people that you need
Yeah,
to.
and the danger level,
Yeah.
not just with the police, but like for your person,
Yeah.
goes up exponentially.
Yeah.
And so I decided to gravitate back towards graffiti. And
So graffiti was like a saving point for you.
yeah, and made like a conscious effort to like get in contact with this guy Jam One, who I said was like some of the first tags I seen, and he didn't really know me for shit. We had like some acquaintances through other friends where I'd gotten jumped one time by some dudes he knew just for walking through their neighborhood in the city one time.
Crazy.
That's a whole nother story. But like there was there was always fighting and
Sure.
just like little punk kids like being bullies and all that shit. So we kind of had like a acquaintance of,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like a stranger hitting them up.
Word.
Anyway, there was at the time, there's always like lulls in graffiti in different cities, especially back then where graffiti kind of almost dies out when they crack down real hard.
Yeah.
And there's only like, in some cases, one or two dudes still doing it.
Yeah.
And it starts all over again.
Right.
And so it was in that time period.
Yeah.
And
People kind of want to lay low and shit.
Right. There was really no one in this particular year. There might be someone in Baltimore being like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah. But in your experience, right?
Yeah, there
This was
wasn't
like a
really,
lull.
there was not much going on at all.
Okay.
So me and him started going and like, he was really good, and that accelerated me because when you are accepted into like a crew or another artist who's super good, that's just gonna make you better because
100%,
you're going to try a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you'd say he was probably like one of your, I mean, obviously you'd seen him in the street, but like now that you're hanging out with him and like learning from him, that was like definitely a big major influence in your style at that time.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And also like in lots of things, in racking, spray paint, and getting to know the city better and the little ins and outs and the different politics that you're not aware of and all these things. And so we started going out and doing pieces, and we were, trying to do like full color burners in some spots where like, I wouldn't have done before. We're like, dude, there's like a road right there, and all the cops have to do is look to the right, and we're right there, like,
Damn.
and
That's sick.
we were doing it, and
Yeah.
I think it was probably the fastest growth in my graffiti career, where like it went from not being good to being pretty like capable pretty quickly. I think as far as piecing goes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you're around people like that, like you said, it's instantly like, you're looking at how they're painting, what little bits and doodads and like, little arrows are coming off whatever. And you're like, oh shit. And you start getting a little bit more of a knowledge, and you're like, I want to throw that in here and that. And so I'm sure that's definitely something that's like, okay, now's the time to go. And also, you're like, when you're around people like that, at least for me, it's always like, well, fuck, dude, like I suck compared to them. Like I have to get better, because it's like, how can I paint next to this guy?
Right.
So you're just sketching like a madman.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I gravitated to that, and then what happened was I ended up getting expelled from high school for graffiti. So
shit.
It's still the trouble still kind of bit me in the ass a little bit,
Not as bad as Chevrolet.
No, definitely not as bad. And I caught a couple cases, nothing major. Definitely they tried to make it seem like it was, and my parents did too, but they really weren't that big a deal. It didn't stop me.
Yeah.
Because it was all I knew, and it was all I wanted to do. And it just continued. And,
how did that happen? Did like someone snitch on you or anything like that? Or like you got caught fucking painting at a high school or?
Yeah, because I mean, it was like what did me in as far as getting expelled was marker tags inside the school, which is,
standard.
Yeah.
Standard. Bathroom stall tags.
Yeah. And so, it wasn't hard for them to like, who's doing this? Oh, it's that dude, and back then kids never even heard of the term snitching. So there was probably no problem in them figuring out who it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn. Okay. Word. So now that, you're not in high school, what's like your routine, because obviously this is something that like didn't stop, so like you got all this freedom, or you just like, all right, well now I'm just going to go bombing like even more and rack even more,
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I started going harder and harder and I had all this free time.
Yeah.
And my parents, I've been arrested so many times for different things that they decided, well, let's just let him hang himself with the trouble. Like, he's not going to listen to us.
Yeah.
So let him find out for himself. And that's really the thing that chilled me out. And thank God it didn't do something where I ended up like, in like a life sentence or some like a 5 years or something that would have changed my life in a direction I couldn't change it from,
Right. Okay. And now, so like with that time, like, or at this point, you're obviously heavily more involved in like graffiti, you're hanging out with other writers. Are you now like interested in like traveling, to up to New York or like other places around, the US? Is that something that was coming into effect, or like how long were you in Baltimore for,
I was in Baltimore until 93.
Okay.
So, around, I want to say around 91-ish, I started taking trips to New York and Philly and Washington, D.C., and then getting exposed to different styles and, a different outlook on graffiti and the network of people. And like, really at that time, like there really wasn't like the writers from one city, they just didn't know any writers. There was no way to connect unless you went to some spot and like met
like
them,
DM
like
somebody.
and just met a stranger. That was the only way.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of that going on. And especially even, much more then than now. So like you could find yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah.
I mean, not with another writer, but it could be a non-writer. And we're like, what are you doing here?
Get the fuck out of my neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
So, my first connections were with DC writers.
Okay.
And, Baltimore and DC are very close cities. It's like SF and Oakland,
Oh, really? I'll be honest.
I mean, you can't see one from the other, like the Bay, but they're only about 25 minutes apart at their borders,
Yeah. When it comes to geography, especially with the East Coast, I'm like fucking stupid as shit. Because people like you said, you're like, I went to New York, I went to Philly. I'm like, oh, how far is that from there? Like I have no idea.
Yeah.
No concept of like the East Coast whatsoever.
Yeah. New York is like 4.5 hours away. Or I could be wrong.
That
now.
ain't shit.
Yeah. Could be wrong. My memory, because it's been a while. Philly's only like 2 hours away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nothing. That's crazy. Okay. Yeah. I like I said, I have no concept as far as geography. So sometimes I think about like Europe and I'm like, yeah, you can go to like Germany from like, this spot in like an hour. And I'm like, what? You're just like in a whole other country. Okay. And so I obviously, freight culture for you is obviously like a huge thing. And I definitely want to elaborate more on that. But at least, in the early 90s, were you, was that even on your radar?
No.
Okay.
No, I was a street bomber. I did pieces and
Gotcha.
I did tags, and then I started getting the bug for throw ups because I made some trips to New York, and like New York was crushed at that time, and it was like really inspiring, especially like on the freeway, just like white and black filled in throw ups from one exit to the next, and it was like, wow, that's so cool looking, like there's like hazy filled in throw ups, with that have that
dusty fill, crispy outlines,
Rusto fat cap orange dot fills where they're like, you can still kind of see what's under it, but you can't see the stitching going back and forth through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've learned later that comes with like doing a calm throw up, like when you're going super fast cause you're scared, you're going to see that stitching. But if you're doing it, like you own the place, it has a very nice, solid, mist where you can kind of still see what's under it, but you can't see where you went back and forth,
Yeah. I mean, all my shit is fucking sketchy. I'm like such a nervous wreck.
Sometimes it's the cap though. These days, because the cap systems and cans have all changed, and a lot of it has to do with that.
Yeah.
But,
so like, for that early time, obviously, like, I mean, and like we were talking earlier, like I got into graffiti in like 2003, but I really didn't get into graffiti until like much later. But some of the people that like had brought me in are like, yeah, you can buy these caps, but like, go get Stone Cleaner, go get fucking, this and that. Like,
yeah, that's what I did. We
so
knew a lot of that came from me meeting the guys in DC, because before that, really had no idea. We were using stock caps and making it work.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to the New York Skinny and the New York Fat and the Rusto Fat Cap, which, they weren't called any of those names back then.
Yeah.
They were like...
Do you remember what they were called?
Well, the New York Skinny we called testers because they came on those little model paint cans.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think the New York Fat, which was called... I forgot what that was called now, but it wasn't called a New York Fat Cap, but it was on like this... some kind of cleaning product, and the Rusto Fat Cap was on this waterproofing seal for camping gear.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Cuddy.
And so those were only the three caps. It's the only three caps you need, really, but
right.
They just don't fit on anything now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I literally in my backpack right now, I have Legos, New York Fats, and a cream. And that's it. I mean, that's pretty much all I purchase. Anything else is always like when you're at a store and they're like, here's a free cap. And they just give you like a clear cap. I'm like, I'll never use this.
Yeah. Now I'd use Lego, Pink Dot Fat Cap, and the Rusto Fat Cap. Now the Rusto Fat Cap doesn't fit on anything, but I'll use razor blades to shave it down so I can get it to fit. Cause I like the output is there's nothing that outlines like that. So I do all my throws outlined in the Rusto Fat Cap.
So you're still doing a lot of that DIY to this day.
Oh yeah. I sit here and whittle these while I'm at my desk sometimes because I go through quite a lot of them. But
yeah.
Okay,
that's sick. I definitely gonna pick your brain about that later. But okay, cool, dude. So now you're in New York. You're paying attention to these fills. Like we're obviously you're known for just your JE, but like. Did you start that or like were you like JASE like were you just doing full?
I think I may have tried to do a full 4-letter at first. I think, and probably when you're not very good, you're like, well, 2 letters are easier than 4, right?
Sure.
Because
and you can get it done a lot quicker.
And I think even at the beginning there may have been a few JA throws, but like at least I had the forethought to think, well, I want to get out of the city one day. Yeah. So that's not gonna work, and I feel like a lot of people don't even, why limit yourself? Like if somebody writes something that you write in another city, you can't think like, oh, but they're over there and I'm over here. And it's like, okay, that means you're not going anywhere then, right? Like,
yeah. So was JA someone that like, you saw them and you're like, oh shit, like,
yeah, of course
that 2 letters, like, I like that. I'm gonna try my own.
I mean, I didn't start doing 2 letters specifically because of JA. It was because like all the 2 letters, that all the different names.
Everyone had that, yeah.
You know what I mean? It just happened
Fair.
that my name was Jason and like I was writing Jase, and that's why there was a couple JAs at first. But
yeah.
And I mean, like on paper, I may have sprayed one like once or twice.
Oh, so okay, sorry. So your first
I may have
2
sprayed
letters...
one once or twice.
Yeah.
But I quickly changed that to JE.
Okay.
Because I wanted to have my own thing.
Sure. Okay. So JA was the reason why you did JE.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that you said you did JA. I don't know why I thought you just did JE from the get.
No.
Okay. All right. Sick, dude. Fucking. Just out of curiosity, like I don't know if you don't have to obviously, but like, did you have any names prior to Jase? That you like kind of like tinkered with or any?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started tagging, a lot of it was just writing our crew name, which was GSC, Graffiti Strikes Crew.
Okay.
And I wrote Jasonism for a little while.
Jasonism.
Yeah, and then I also
wild.
I wrote Master, which Master was a derivative of Maserati, because when I was in another time I was in juvenile jail for stealing a Maserati, all the brothers in there used to call me Maserati. Yo, Maserati, and it was just funny. So like I tried to write that. I was like, that's too many letters. So I shortened it to Master.
Right. And I mean, I do want to obviously elaborate on like infamy in later on in the episode, but like obviously I know there's that part where you're like people started putting Bader behind it.
Oh yeah, I mean that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened once or twice. It wasn't like an epidemic or anything, but it definitely was like, well, I don't like that,
Yeah, that's hella funny, dude. this is just has nothing to do with anything, but like my lady Tenshi, well shit, I don't know if I'm like ratting her out, but there was a guy back in the day in like the East Bay that used to write bone, and like she would just be like always putting an R behind it, so it said boner.
That's funny.
I don't think this kid paints anymore at all, but if for some reason it gets back to him, it'd be pretty funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'll ask her later. Edited that out, but anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I can laugh about it now. It's definitely that first impact wasn't funny that day.
Yeah. You're like, what the fuck? That's awesome, dude. Okay, and then like, what made you like solidify? Like, I'm just gonna write Jase.
Well, my name is Jason, but my girlfriend's mother at the time, she just naturally started calling me Jase all the time.
Oh, okay.
And I liked it. And it just went from there. And now it's like pretty much that's my name.
Yeah.
That's what everybody calls me. And like this woman had like a really big impact in my life, because when I was getting in all this trouble, I got kicked out of my parents' house at 16. She like took me in as like and treated me as her own child, and
that's awesome.
Really, really helped me in my life at a time that nobody else was trying to help me. And to her credit, she kind of renamed me, and I still carry that name.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Have you ever kept up with her?
I have. She passed away a couple years ago.
Okay.
I did go back to her services and saw the family, and I love her family, and I loved her very much.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Rest in peace. Okay, so now from 91 to 93, you said you're obviously traveling around and stuff like that. From 93, did you move out of Baltimore and go somewhere else?
Yeah, so I got off probation. I was on probation for a bunch of shit. Most of it was drugs, dealing, weed, handgun possession. I hit acid when I got caught. Got off probation. I had recently, like, I had broke my back because we were stealing nitrous tanks off trucks at the gas company.
Jesus Christ.
And selling them. And we got not chased, but they came out and they moved the truck after we had unstrapped all the tanks and took one out, and all the tanks fell over, and it sounded like thunder, man. And so me and my friend were trying to run with the tank, and they're fucking heavy as shit, like bent over at the waist trying to carry this thing, and I broke one of the discs in my back.
Holy fuck. And
I couldn't put my right foot all the way down. It was because it was like hitting my nerve,
Yeah.
So I had to, didn't have med insurance, of course, and couldn't even tell anyone what really happened, especially my parents.
Yeah.
So I had to get like public assistance, and I had to go have surgery.
Oh fuck.
And I had to take the piece out that I broke.
How old were you?
I want to say like 19 maybe.
Holy shit. That's pretty crazy to like 19 years old get a disc taken out.
Yeah. Not the whole disc, just the part that I broke off.
Oh, okay.
Because it was in there just irritating my spinal cord.
Yeah.
So got through that and recovered, and also got off probation. And I just thought, I'm fucking out of Baltimore, man.
Yeah. Enough's enough.
And I was like, I'm going to California, because,
okay.
California's the mecca for it wasn't just about graffiti. It was like the land of sunshine. And like, I wanted to like just,
I mean, there's so many
lowriders and bitches in bikinis and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Smoking weed,
yeah,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't really know much about where I wanted to go or anything. So I had like one connection, a kid I grew up with who had moved out there with his parents, and he was in Concord.
Oh, okay.
And so
in the Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was like, yeah, dude, come out here, man. Like in
Concord.
Yeah. And I drove across the country in my car.
Which car?
It was a black Fiera GT.
Oh, that was the Fiera. Okay.
There was another one. I had three of them, but this was the latest one that was like kind of tricked out. I had bought this car. It was like all kind of shit happened. The car had gotten stolen. I saw the guy driving it like a month later, chased him in a Porsche. He wrecked the car.
Damn.
I got the car fixed. And this is all in like a matter of the car is like 4 months old, like
That's wild.
And I just left the state and just stopped paying payments, man. And like went to California,
And there's no way they can get a hold of you.
They never found that car.
No fucking way, dude. How much do you think you owed on it?
All of it.
That's awesome, dude. Fieros are so sick. I know you were making fun of me earlier, but dude, those Fiero kit cars, like I've seen.
No,
like,
the kit cars are whack, man. But the Fiero GTs, like stock, maybe like changed rims or something. Those are cool, and now they're worth some money.
Dude, they are. Yeah, I mean, I grew up super into like JDM and car culture as well, and so like when I saw a Lamborghini kit car on top of a Fiero frame, I was like, that's it, dude. That's fucking sick. Like, because I mean, the idea of me ever having Lamborghini is just so out of fucking reach, So,
yeah.
But I completely agree with you. Fieros are fucking sick. They're like mid-range engines and shit like that. They're hella balanced. I mean, they handle like motherfuckers.
Yeah,
that's
fun.
Fucking sick.
So I drove that car across, and I got to the Bay, like the very first day in the Bay Area. I didn't even get to my friend's house. It was near Oakland. The car breaks down.
Oh shit!
And it was the alternator.
It's probably the alternator. It's probably the alternator.
And so I had to leave the car, and I had some spray paint behind the seat because I was like tagging shit going across the country.
Of course.
I come back to the car the next day, and the car had gotten broken into, and they got the paint, and they lined my car with my own paint. It was like, welcome to California.
Yeah.
Welcome to Oakland. I was like, I laughed about it, but it was also kind of like, wow, this is going to be fun. Like,
did you still have your tires?
Yeah, they didn't take anything with the paint, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's hella funny.
Because I had taken the shit out before my friend came and got me, and I like took all the shit out, and it was just the car and the paint in the back. But
okay.
And the paint came right off with some fucking turtle wax and
sure.
shit, so no big deal.
Yeah. How was going across the country in like a fucking 2-seater?
Man, it was great.
Really? They're comfortable like that?
I mean, I don't think you think about things like that when you're young.
You're just like mobbing.
It's not like, like just like in a plane now. The older I get, I'm just like 5-hour flight. I'm like, this sucks. But like when you're younger, you're like, oh, that's like nothing,
Yeah. Okay. And when you were crossing the country and shit like that, were you like, catching cutty spots, or you just tagging like gas stations
underpasses
and
like bridges and shit, and like little spots like that, and I got to see like that Trust Jesus. That was like on underpasses all over the country at that time. Yeah, and it definitely was like the same person. It wasn't like this like all these like a thing amongst like Christians or something. It was one. Dude, and it had to be either a hitchhiker or a truck driver. There's no
You're talking
doubt.
about the wheat paste, right?
No, this is spray paint.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, trust. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking of Jesus Saves. The Jesus Saves wheat paste stickers that are like been around forever, and I'm like, yeah, this dude's like a Jesus writer. That's crazy. Right. Have you had anybody ever send you any pictures of anything still running from that time period?
The only person that ever said they saw something was Revoke. He told me that he was, I think it was like in Arizona or New Mexico or something, like it was like an aqueduct. When you were going by, if you look down just at the right time, there's a throw up right there, and it was the only thing that that I know of that someone saw
from the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in Oakland, you're getting bipped.
They didn't break my window though.
Oh, they didn't?
No.
Oh, do you think they just like
I mean, the cars were easy to get into back then.
Like, the old school Jimmys.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like coupes or cars that didn't have a door frame around the top. The glass just rolled up, and when you you could just get your fingers in there and then
push it down.
Pull the window away from the car. All you need to do is have it wide enough to get your elbow in.
You're putting so many kids on game right now.
Right. If you can get your elbow in, then you got it. You know, and like even with cars with the frame, if you have two people, you just bend the top of the door frame out just enough to get your elbow in there, and then you're in,
Yeah.
And then you can bend it back after you get the door open.
Yeah. Okay. So you you landed in Oakland, you took your stuff out and went to Concord to like drop off your stuff, right? And then went back to your car and shit like that.
Yeah.
So at that point you're already staying in Concord.
Yeah.
What was your first impression of, I mean, Concord sucks.
Well, fuck, I didn't know nothing about Concord. It was just like another burb like Baltimore.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, weather's cool. I didn't really have an impression.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, freedom. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's start figuring it out.
I mean, I moved to California with $300 and it wasn't scary at all. It's like, that's the mindset I had, Like,
yeah. Yeah. Sick, dude. Okay.
And so immediately started racking spray and doing rack and returns.
Sure.
And started driving to the city.
Yeah.
And started
Like
catching
San Francisco proper.
in Oakland and San Francisco and started painting.
Oh, and also I remember, because I looked at my call logs, but I was talking to Renos.
Yeah.
And Reno said his first impression of you was in Psycho City pulling up in the Fiero. He was like, ask him about that. That's Cuddy. And I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah, that was the car. I kept it, never paid for it. They never found it. I kept it until the day it died.
So far.
And even at the end, when it broke down for like umpteenth time, even with all the parts on it, I just donated it to like one of those tax, you get the tax, even though you got to like, you got to have like
no way
a different kind of tax to even make any money off that.
Yeah,
but I was like, yeah, easy come, easy go. I was like, here, just take it. And it was gone. Cause that way I didn't have to deal with getting it towed again. I was like, fuck it. It's gone. It lived its life.
Oh, that's so crazy. Cause you said you put like the
it had
Euro
like
body style on it.
It had like the forced air intake going over the roof into the back engine. And it had like American racing wheels on it and a couple of different little things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that's so sick. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be worth now.
Man, I still sometimes look into that and like, I'm like, man, I should get one of these. I mean, I can't even afford it, but like, I don't want to stand out. I mean, that car, I did a lot of street bombing in, and like my friends used to call it the escape pod. So I started calling it the escape pod. But it definitely attracted a lot of attention,
Sure.
Like I had people like, that's like Knight Rider or something,
Yeah. What color was it?
Black.
Okay.
With polished aluminum wheels.
Damn. Do you have any pictures of it?
Yes.
Sick. Okay. Yeah, if you could ever find it, I'd love to see what it looked like back then.
All right.
Excuse me. Okay, man. So like, now you're riding into San Francisco, like what is, your first, obviously there's no impression on Concord, but like, what's your first impression of like San Francisco and Oakland graffiti? Now that you're there and you're like really, you're coming into like what we call now the golden era.
All right. Well, so it probably was Oakland before SF. So, cause just geographically,
it's closer.
It's coming from Concord, right?
Yeah.
Took BART. First thing I did is took BART just as I could survey what was going on.
Yeah.
Of course, found
track sides and all that.
Saw the track sides
Yeah.
of the TDK yard, right?
Yeah.
Went there. There were some kids painting.
Oh, you seen them painting?
And then, I walked past them and they were like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Talked to them for a minute. They're like, where are you from? Blah, 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 this and that. I started walking away from them and a fucking like half a brick just whizzed right by my head, like, and I was like, oh shit. And like, the best thing to do in a situation is just
keep it pushing.
No, I don't even act scared. Just keep going, And
yeah,
I was like, whatever. I went and got some paint, came back the next day and
lined them out.
No. I was doing a piece and I ran into Ghost from Oakland.
Okay.
And, introduced himself and he was like, bro, you can't come in here without a weapon and shit, He's like, there's some real shitheads around here.
Yeah.
And I was like, tell him what happened yesterday. And he's like, yeah, that's a daily. That's the move, man.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right, good to know. I'll take that into consideration. And I did, but I never had a problem after that ever again.
Yeah.
Then
did you figure out who was that was painting at the later
I kind of have a feeling, and we're friends now, and I've never asked them if that, and I have a feeling they probably wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling
because that's just everyday shit.
And it's someone in a crew that I'm in.
That's so fucking funny. Yeah. I mean, that's everyday shit, throwing stuff at people.
I mean, I wasn't mad at them because it was like, that's what happens.
Their area, yeah, for sure. Okay, sick, dude. Fucking. So you're painting the TDK yards and stuff like that. Like, what were some of the riders that like you remember really like seeing that stood out? Like, oh, this dude's really fucking crushing the area.
It's fucking, of course, Dream.
Yeah.
Like, I had already known who Dream was. Because there was spray can art and IGT magazine and I'd seen photos and I was just totally impressed with him and Spy. And so even without that, he had the best pieces at the tracks, there's no question about it.
Did you see the best of both worlds?
Yes.
Damn. How was that? Like, as far as an impression?
I mean, dude, it was awesome. I mean, like, like I mentioned before, how like my graffiti had advanced a lot in my younger period. This also had pushed me going to Oakland tracks and doing pieces amongst those guys, and then to like meet Dream, and then he was like the most humblest, nicest guy ever. Loved that guy, still do, of course. And for him to be like, yeah, let's do a piece together. I was definitely not on the level to be painting with him.
Yeah.
But he was totally cool with it, and so that pushed me to try even harder.
Damn.
And propelled me quite a bit.
That's sick. How, when did you meet him, like from when you first moved?
Pretty quickly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty quickly. Yeah.
Nice. You just like bumped into him one time at a yard, or like?
Yeah, at the Oakland tracks.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you were frequenting this yard
I was
fairly
going,
often.
Yeah, I was going there a lot, and I was going to Psycho City, and then I was doing street spots, and I met Crash and Stash, and then me and Stash became friends, and we started doing some street bombing in Oakland, downtown Oakland. I started doing Berkeley too.
Sick.
Then I started going to SF, and I didn't really have any street bombing partners in SF. I was doing that pretty much all solo.
Okay.
And doing some pieces here and there. Psycho City, a couple other places I can't remember exactly. It was going in the tunnels.
You talking about like the Muni tunnels?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you at this point still just GSC?
JASE?
Or is it graffiti stripes?
Oh, no,
That was Baltimore.
It was KSW, which was the guy Jam One's crew,
Okay.
and DST, which was a crew from Baltimore. Don't Sweat the Technique, or Dick Slapping Toys.
Fuck, love it. Okay.
So it was like KSW and DST,
Okay.
and at the time, and then around, I want to say around 94, 93, 90, around 94, 93, I came up with BA, and I started BA.
Okay.
And I got my boys in Baltimore to push it, and a couple dudes that I had met out here in California and SF.
Sick.
And it started from there.
Who was some of the original members of BA in the Bay Area?
Neon, FX, Apex,
Okay.
Zombie.
Yeah, Reno's told me to ask you about Zombie.
Yeah, like Zombie. When I first came to SF and Oakland, you didn't see bomb trucks or even bomb vans. There was nobody riding on vehicles at this time. So the trucks that were bombed were all parked in Chinatown.
Oh, okay.
And there was like obviously the bus hopper hands on them, but Zombie had a bunch of those trucks.
Fill-ins and stuff.
Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, it's different. And so I started hitting trucks in other places in the city and vans, and like that was like it's like this thing where like, I don't know, people have a phobia, like, oh, that's like somebody's van, even though it's like a white work van, it's old.
Yeah.
I have to say nobody was really doing it until I hit a couple, and I'm not saying that I did like a bunch or anything, but it kind of like, then it became like, okay, we're going to take these now.
Yeah. It's so funny because where you're saying you're like, it wasn't really done like that, but I feel now, I mean, box trucks and vans are such a Bay Area thing.
Oh yeah.
Like every single fucking freight truck is rocked. And when you see one and you're like, what? It's not rocked yet?
I really haven't done that many. But I did some before when they were all clean, and there's some really good ones now. I mean, I was just talking to someone about this other day, and they're like, maybe you should go do a truck. And I'm just thinking, yeah, I don't know. It's like that feeling of getting caught by the person who owns the truck. It's not the same as like street bombing on the wall.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Because you're like attacking someone personally, like their
yeah,
property.
and I had an instance in Baltimore where I was doing a truck, and it was like 2 a.m, and like here comes a dude like full speed right at me. I'm like, oh fuck, and like got chased down the street in the city. Yeah, and like just thinking this dude's gonna kill me. Yeah, and so those things. unfortunately build up phobias, and you start to gravitate away from actions like that.
Yeah. I've had a few instances where they're hitting trucks and they're even living in it, and all of a sudden I just hear them,
Yeah.
hey, what are you doing? And then I
Yeah.
see the roll down, fucking roll up. I'm like, oh, we gotta go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it can be, it's for sure sketchy. But at the same time, yeah, I feel like trucks are definitely like a super Bay thing. Like, I mean, there's people fucking bring out ladders on fucking trucks,
and then
it's
people would like
crazy.
found like truck yards, like, oh, there's a spot where there's like 5, 6 of them. And
Yeah.
like it becomes like a thing. I never really got involved in that. A couple of people really took
Gotcha.
that to a different level.
Yeah. So now that you're in San Francisco, I obviously being a Bay Area podcast, just what was your first impression of like, like bus flow and like seeing it and being it, fairly different from, I mean, obviously you're looking at Philly hand styles, there's definitely a regional style.
Well, apart from the hand style, which was unique, there was just the seeing it spray running on active transit. It wasn't a subway, but it was still like, that's amazing. We'd hit a few buses in Baltimore, but it would be cleaned like instantly,
Yeah.
That guy Form, man, he was on every fucking bus in the city.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, really, like, you could be on Market Street and just stand there and it would be like one after another, and he had them all. And like on the roof where the box connects to the electrical box.
Yeah.
And like on the driver's visor backwards, so you could see it through the windshield with spray paint.
Yeah.
It was like, holy shit,
No, yeah, for sure. I Spy posted on his story maybe like a month ago of just like 1995, like, it was good, like 10 kids just rocking the bus. And and I was like, oh, let me, repost that or whatever. And like it was like at one point you saw a dude like jump on someone's shoulders and get to the top. And he was like riding on the roof and shit like that and getting those electro boxes.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because like no one does that anymore. And no one does insides anymore. The inside of the bus.
No, because
the
yards, I want to say until around 94 were not guarded.
Yeah.
And they were not even, the gate was wide open too at all times, so
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was easy. I definitely don't want to say that, but it was easier.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, if you're going to get on the roof of the bus and then hop from the roof to roof to roof in the yard, that's pretty fucking ballsy.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your experience with like the ghost yard and like, spots like that? Obviously like you got that
I got that
sick ass photo right there.
Photo up there of the ghost yard. I'm pretty sure KR took that of Barry in the yard. I mean, it was cool, man. It was like old SF buses, and there was some old transit in there. I did a piece in there, on an old trolley car, and
that's like an epic picture that's like been reposted over and over, and I've reposted for sure, like Throwback Thursday when that was more of a thing. I'd go on Flickr, obviously, just because that's where all of those pictures are archived, and Funkin' Jazz. Obviously has like tons of pictures of the ghost yard, Tire Beach, and stuff like that. And definitely, I recognize that you're Jase on that trolley car. It was a green one, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think so, with high, right?
Yeah. That was just like you're just walking in there and you're like, oh, I'm gonna hit this.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't think about how like epic that is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was like no one's gonna see this,
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking back, there's lots of wasted opportunities like that. Now people have found, like I was saying earlier, found so many places that you're like, oh, why didn't I think of just doing that over there, or walking down this path, or cutting across this track right here, and look at that perfect opportunity right there.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you're just doing your thing, right?
It's evolution.
Like,
and it spreads.
And I think, at least to back then to what it is now, it's like, if you want something that's unique, you have to put in that effort to go further, right? It's like graffiti's like so crazy at this point that's like when you do find it, it's almost like surprising. You're like, holy shit, I found a virgin wall. What the fuck is that? Like it's kind of, at least in the Bay for sure, it's not as easy. But yeah, so anyways, getting back to you, it's like 94 now, right? Ish, that you're in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
What's, what's like the, your daily routine? Like, I mean, you're obviously here now in the Bay Area for like a year or so.
My daily routine was racking and trying to come up with enough money just to eat that day and have
Fair
beer money that day
Yeah.
and paint at night.
What was your experience with like, the Judah tunnel and like all those Muni tunnels, is that like something that was just at this point kind of like common knowledge that people were going down there, or you're just like, oh, what's this? Like, like how did you, start painting those
Well,
spots?
I think the Judah tunnel wasn't, that wasn't hard to find.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone, the first time you'd go in there, you'd be like, well, man, we're pretty exposed. If they come, you're fucked. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No,
like,
for sure.
So there's that. And then obviously you get over that feeling because they never did really
Yeah.
show up. I mean, I think I've heard of a few instances, right?
Yeah.
But then the other tunnel, or I got the names confused now, the one with the stairs by under the Mint, right?
Mm-hmm.
KR had showed me that one.
Yeah. That's the one with like the character of of Barry on the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was like, KR and Reminisce and Twist and Amaze and Gray and
Sure.
Soap and Felon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sick, dude. Fucking, I'm jealous. I mean, just, obviously through this podcast, hearing the stories and stuff like that, and then just meeting writers in general, like they tell me their thing, and I'm just like, fuck, dude. Like, I wish I had like a spot like that. You could like go in after like 9, 10 o'clock and just spend the whole day fucking.
I always like
drinking a 40 and kicking
we talked
it
about it with KR. Like, there's got to be a train park down. If we just keep walking,
Yeah.
eventually there's got to be, because like on the East Coast, especially New York, they're all parked underground, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be like a BART or a Muni parked down there somewhere we can get to. And he was like, that's a really far walk, probably.
Yeah. So you were trying to hit like, I want to hit like a Muni fucking.
Yeah.
little train.
I wanted to do BART. I tried to, me and Dream and Spy and Chemrex and Twist went to do BART in the Concord Yard. And with the stroke of bad luck, we had like parked and we got out to go in, and we got in there and they were cleaning the end train.
Oh shit.
And so we were like, all right, we can't get past them because it was on the closest one to us,
Mm-hmm.
So let's let them finish. So we went back to the car, and somebody had drove by and just saw us walking, some Karen, and called the cops and was like, these guys look suspicious. I mean,
You being by the car?
just walking, and wasn't like super late at night, but like, it was maybe 1 a.m. or something.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think none of us realized it, but we all had black hoodies on, not really.
Yeah. Urban camouflage, right?
Right. Nobody really even put any thought into that. So
Look at these hoodlums.
cops came. I was the only white guy, so I have a feeling that's why they decided to zero in on me. And the cops were like standing on my foot and asked me why I'm stepping on his toes. He's putting his nose on my face and shit.
Damn.
And like, he was being a real dick, and he was trying to provoke me,
Yeah.
And I got arrested because I had mace in my pocket, chemical mace, not the pepper mace.
Oh shit.
And they took me to Concord, and Dream and Spy came to get me. And the police were like, tell your boy to fucking knock his shit off when you go outside. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you ask him, right? So I got out there and I'm like, what happened? And I was like, oh, Mike went up to the front window where the camera is and went, and then wrote, fuck the police on the glass,
Yo, that's epic. That's wild. That's sick, man. So wait, did you have to like bail out or something, or they're just releasing you the next day?
They just released me.
Oh, they just held you for the night.
But I had a court date and shit, and
Okay,
I had to go deal with that. And when I went to court for that, the judge at the courtroom goes, the witness says that all the individuals were dressed as ninjas, and the whole courtroom started laughing.
That's cool. Kind of breaks the ice a little bit.
Yeah. And I kind of laughed a little bit myself, and which is, you don't want to do that in the courtroom when you're being charged. But like, I think even the judge knew that was silly.
100%.
And it was just one of those like, all right, it's like $200. See ya.
Fuck, fresh.
They never put two and two together about why we were there.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, would you think that even then, that
they didn't open the trunk where all the paint was, but Barry had some stickers in his pocket, and one of them said "cop hater" on it, and so that set them off a little bit. But they still didn't think they never put it together. It was a graffiti thing at all.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. Okay.
Sick, dude. That's fucking nuts. Yeah. So that's and then you're like that. You're like, I'm not gonna hit Bart anymore. Fuck this.
Well. At the time, I wasn't thinking about it, but I definitely was always. I've never hit a bar train. I did hit Muni a couple times, but I never did BART. I wish I had pushed, but that little experience made me weary. Because that's the worst case scenario. It's always, even with any graffiti, the car is the weak point, right? Yeah,
that has all the supplies.
Leaving the car and coming back to the car is the choke point. And that's what happened.
Yeah. And I mean, it's registered to you. It has all your information.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
100%. Yeah. If you can, ditch the car.
Yeah.
But then it's like one of those things, right? If you don't have the car, then you're like on foot. You're like, how the fuck do I get out of here?
Right. If something goes wrong.
Sure.
I mean, nowadays you got a cell phone, Uber's right there. But back then it's like, oh man, I got to get to a payphone to call my boy,
Yeah. Do I even have some, 50 cents in my pocket?
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever Ubered out of a spot? Speaking of,
oh yeah, I had one time. Me and Peace and another guy went to hit this spot in Oakland. This wasn't even that long ago, and it was like 9 a.m. or something, right by the hospital, right by the freeway wall. Mm-hmm. So we did some throw ups, and then one guy was finishing. And I was just standing there up against the hospital wall waiting for him to finish. And all of a sudden, the CHP from up top on the freeway leans over and he goes, "Don't move. You guys stay right there." And I was like, what the fuck, So we start walking away and he starts yelling, "Freeze." Hey. And then at the same time, CHP started coming from two different sides on the ground level.
Oh, shit.
So we started booking through this through this park, got to the street. Running down the street, my boy one of the guys went to the right, and I'm running with two other people. They taser the guy running next to me. He goes down.
Oh, fuck.
And so I'm running down the block. I'm running with my phone. And while I'm running, I open Uber, and I see the car pulling up right passing the intersection that I'm running up to, and I hit the button. And the guy stopped right there at the exact perfect timing. And I just jumped in the car. I'm like, dude, all right, go, And the dude's like, what the fuck? And I told him where to go, or he saw where to go, because I'd already had it in my phone because I just went there,
Yeah.
He makes a U-turn and goes down the street that I just ran down. I'm like, oh, no, And I had to drive past my boy getting beat up by the CHP after they tasered,
Yeah.
And then I get to my boy's house, which was only like, a couple blocks away. And the guy goes, "Listen, man, I don't know what you're up to, but I want $20."
Here, bro.
And I'm like, he knew where I was going. It wasn't my house, but I was still like, "Here, bro, I'm out of here." Take it. Went at my friend's house. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Dude. Yeah. That's fucking nuts, bro. Yeah. That's a great story. Yeah. I talked about it in a different episode. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, basically we'd walked like close to 10 miles fucking to get to this crazy ass spot. It took us hours, and we're like, in the mountains. And then finally I just looked at my homie and I was like, I'm not walking back, and he's like, what? And I was like, I'm calling an Uber. And he got hella pressed. And he's like, no, like, we're going to just pop out of a bush. And we're like, yeah, dude. We fucking popped out of a bush, and the dude picked us up, and he's just like kind of weary, like, what the fuck? And then we were like, yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, we just fucking painted. He's like, oh, okay, y'all from the town, sick. Like, that's what's up, bro. And then we just start talking like hella about hyphy shit, and he's just like hella cool. I'm like, thank fucking God. We got like a Bay kid to pick us up in the middle of this fucking random ass cutty spot. Yeah, Uber's a lifesaver for sure.
Cool.
Okay, so now that you're in the Bay Area, how did you get involved? I do want to talk a little bit like Montana. Like, how did you get involved with that? What was to start
Sure.
that like concept of you distributing Montana here in North America?
Okay, so
Like, what was the time period?
that was around 2002.
Oh, okay. So a little bit later.
Yeah. So from like the last time period of like, the BART thing I was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone to Alaska. I came back. I was in SF, and then
Yeah, we can talk about that first too. I'm curious about Alaska.
was in SF for a year, and then I needed to regroup. So I went back to Maryland, but I lived like in between Baltimore and DC, and I was there for about a year. And that's when I started doing freights. And then I came back to SF around 96 or late 96, 97. Okay. Came back to SF, and I got the same. I lived in the Fillmore ever since then. It's the longest place I've ever lived in my life. I'm from Baltimore, but I'm from SF. That's where I've lived the most in my life, in the Fillmore.
Yeah.
So all the way up until time period, I went to Asia, and I came back, and Neon, who's, I'd known already for a while, same, BA crew, BA told me, doing this Montana thing. I already had heard about Montana, and Belton, and he had started importing it with Zor from Chicago.
Okay.
And, it was small. Like, they imported like, I don't know, 1,000 cans or 2,000 cans. And,
sure.
And he was selling it out of the trunk of his car. And then, I think him and Zor started having some disagreements because Zor was trying to, like, from my understanding, he was like trying to hold on to the good cars. Like, no, we're not going to sell those because we're going to keep them for our crew. And it's like, bro, this is a business.
Yeah.
And, which I can appreciate both sides of that.
Yeah.
And I like Zor. But anyway, there was falling out there. So then Alex asked me, hey, do you want to like go in with me and invest some money in this? And so I did. And we put some more money and went a little bit bigger.
Sick.
And took off from there.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to obviously elaborate on that, but I mean, I didn't realize that it was like, a little bit later. So I'd love to know about, you're starting getting into freight, like that time period, what really like made you gravitate towards freight? Like what kind of got you into it?
Okay. Well, I mean, the first exposure to painted freights, I think would have to be like magazines like Can Control and, like King 157. And so then I came to California. I was seeing
TLT stuff.
Yeah, I was like, I saw some of King 57's stuff from. You could see it from BART. Some cars parked in Port of Oakland and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that shit's dope. And seeing a few things around. I wasn't totally into it then because it seemed like, man, it's just you paint and it's gone. Like, and you know what I mean? Because like I had known about like since I had driven across the country, I knew how vast it was. I'm like, bro, that's
gone.
That's in space. So you're never seeing that again,
Yeah.
And when I had went back to Maryland, I was taking the Amtrak from DC to Baltimore, and we went through this train yard in Jessup by the prison. And there was a fruit car there parked with a crashed TDK piece on it. And I was like, oh, because me and him had done some pieces at the TDK yard. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, okay. Now it kind of clicks. This shit does travel. It can be seen by people. It's not going to disappear in space. I mean, it might, but like,
But the chances are you're going to get seen all around the U.S.
The chance, like the maybe was appealing. Like it might get seen as like adventurous, you know what I mean? Like, all right, well, this sounds pretty cool now, and like, I hit up Evade. And because the DC guys were going into the train yard in Virginia from Crystal City, which this yard is gone now. Okay. And they were painting freights. And they had asked me to come down and do that with them a couple of times. I was like, and before I'd even gone to California, they'd asked me, and I was like, nah, I don't think I'm into that,
Yeah.
So he was like, yeah, man, let's go, And so we went, did a piece. And from there, man, the fire was lit.
Yeah. The addiction started.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't stop doing streets. I still doing.
Yeah.
I was doing
In combination with.
Yeah, I was doing more DC streets in Baltimore then, but I was doing pieces, wall pieces and stuff.
So you're bombing the streets and then doing like your burners.
Yeah.
Sick. And then what was the time period, because I mean, obviously there's, it's like, it's been said before, like you can't go on Freight Line without seeing a JE. Like when we were like, all right, I'm bombing freight and I'm just rocking these like 2 letters all day,
Well, I started painting more and more, and I started and because of my connection to the East Coast, I had family, I had friends. I was traveling back and forth a lot, doing things, and I was doing things like racking, and I was dealing drugs, transporting shit across the country. I was like starting to understand the network of the trains and be like, okay, this can be done. Like this can work. And so I started doing more and more. And I started thinking like, okay, if I go to the train yard, like if there's 40 trains here, what's the point of like doing 3 and leaving and coming back next week and doing 2 or 3 when I could just do all 40 of them now instead of like 3 months worth of free you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And
it's a numbers game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And why leave the yard with paint? I'm here.
Yeah.
And there's gas money. And back then it was gas money was like, that was the most important thing, like,
right.
I couldn't steal gas, but I could steal paint,
Yeah, for sure.
And so the trains were all clean. So it was super easy to be like, okay, I can just do a hollow.
You're not going over anybody,
a hollow throw up. I don't even need to fill it in or put 3D on it or a shadow or nothing, So I started at first not trying to do them all, but trying to do as much as paint I had with me.
Sure.
And then the repetitiveness of it started to become really addicting. And then once I started I'd be in another part of the country and I'd be like, see my own self go by.
Yeah.
That was like, oh yeah.
I hit that.
I'm doing this. I'm onto something, I'm going to keep pushing this more and more and more. And,
I can't imagine that first feeling of you're like, oh shit, I did that in, did you recognize it? Like you're like, oh, I know where I hit that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. And so, I started getting like obsessed with it where I was like, okay, I can go to like 3 different train yards in one night and do them all. I can get like 300, 400, 500 cars in a day. And I could get 1,000 in a week,
Yeah.
And like that shit went on for years.
And so for years, what was your like daily routine? Like, I mean, you're really rocking like hundreds of freights in a sitting.
Yeah. But again, like, remember, I'm talking about hollow throw ups. I didn't have to fill them in.
Yeah.
But I would go do a piece. I might go do a piece on a freight.
Gotcha.
And then I would, or some nights I would go, okay, I'm not going to do a piece. I'm going to take all these cans and just do hollow throw ups as many as I can do until I run out of paint all night long,
Okay. But yeah, so you're doing a piece and then you're like, okay, I got like 4 or 5 cans. I'm just going to rock the rest of it until it's all dumped.
Yeah.
Sick. Crazy, dude. Yeah. I mean, just in my own experience, I've been to tons of freight yards and shit, all over, and I've flicked. I mean, there's a grip of your fucking stuff on my Flickr for sure,
Oh, cool.
I got like 15,000 flicks on Flickr, and there's plenty on there.
All right, so I'll have to check it out. I don't get on Flickr much. I mean, it's been quite a while. It was like a long time ago, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, Flickr, it's I talk about it so much that like it's coming back. Like at least I would, and I said this in the last episode, and I'm not trying to be cocky or nothing, but like really, I feel like I've done my best to push it hard. That like the youth is picking it up, and I see tons of new photographers on Flickr, and it's like it's become like its whole thing, at least in the Bay Area, So it's really cool to see like tons of new graffiti being documented and being able to look at it in high quality, not like all compressed
it's
on Instagram.
in more documented format than Instagram.
Right. Yeah. So were you on Flickr at all? Like back in the day?
I don't think I ever posted anything to Flickr.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay. Just created an account to like look at stuff.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. And then you'd mentioned Alaska. So were you like painting in Alaska? What was like, what was the reason to go out there?
I adventured. I mean, I went to go work on a fishing boat in the Bering Sea, and I did that. The only thing I paint, I did catch some tags in some Japanese bunkers in the Aleutian chain in the Bering Sea.
Crazy.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like in general though? Because I mean, like I've had homies that are like, oh, I'm gonna go crabbing out there, and
Man,
it's like it's a hard life.
It's hard, and it felt a lot like being in jail, where like everyone's an asshole. Nobody's happy about the day-to-day shit.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't have like a good work ethic and shit.
Yeah.
And it was like going in the army, something where like, all of a sudden people are like, you're not pulling your weight. I got to pull your weight, motherfucker. And then you get leaned on really hard until you wake up.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, like I'm not even conscious that I'm not doing my job right, or enough work, and
how long would you be at sea?
Like around 30 or 40 days at a time. Yeah.
I get nauseous as fuck on a boat, bro.
So do I. It goes away, but some people it takes longer.
Yeah.
I wasn't the longest, but I was among the longest, like around 2 or 3 days. And if anyone has never been seasick, it feels exactly like having the worst alcohol hangover, complete nausea and headache where you cannot keep anything down.
Fuck.
Like so miserable that you're just like, please let me go back to bed. And you can't because you have a job.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't. I mean, hey, dude, kudos to you, dude, for doing some shit like that. Was that only like one season, and then you're like, fuck, never again?
I did a couple.
Okay,
but my plan was at first, like, I thought maybe I'll make a bunch of money and then I'll pay off all this money I owe on this car since my credit's going to get fucked, because it's the Fiero. But I came back to SF and I was going to move back to Baltimore, and my boy, he was going to start SF State, and he's like, hey man, this is the first day I was back. He's like, we ride around with me while I look for an apartment, I was like, sure, man,
No.
Me and him took like a half a tab of acid while we were looking for an apartment, right? And by the end of the day,
peeping the classified,
I have an apartment,
Yeah, of course, because you're like, hey,
I'm like, he's like, going to be my roomie, fuck it, like, all right, I guess I'll live in SF again.
That's so funny. And was that the Fillmore?
It was by Park Merced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was going to state, right?
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, did that for a year, and then it was the Fillmore. But
okay.
I never spent any of that money on the car, man. We spent all the fucking partying and rent and shit.
I mean, after 7 years, they can't come after you for that, right?
No, but you know what? I mean, a lot of things I learned is before 9/11, the states didn't really trade information at all. Like even criminal backgrounds. Like you could just move to another state and you don't have a criminal background anymore, which is crazy. But a lot of people just didn't know that. So there was no chance they were finding that car, but I didn't know that either. I just thought, well, maybe, but they never did.
Damn. All right. That's crazy that you just like came up on a Fiero and just rocked it till it died, dude. That's fucking awesome. Okay. So now we're like in like, cause I know we kind of skipped ahead obviously to the distribution, but like we're like late 90s, early 2000s, stuff like that. Once you're solidified in like, the distribution aspect of it and you're like actually getting legitimized, what was like the start in like, the factory in South San Francisco?
Well, it was just a warehouse, not a factory.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. I always say factory.
People called it the factory, but it was just the warehouse that we imported the paint from Spain and kept it there. We were selling to graffiti stores, and, we were selling direct to dudes who we knew,
sure,
and some dudes we didn't know sometimes, not too much. But as the business starts to grow and you're selling to more stores, then the stores are like, hey man, you can't like sell to these guys even though you're friends, because they're going to be our customers because we're the store,
sure,
which is legit, right? Yeah. And so you have to find that balance, because you're like at first like, well, we can't afford not to sell to them and only sell to you. Yeah. So it's a bumpy transition, Yeah, for sure. And then you get to the point where finally you have to start telling people like, hey man, sorry, can't sell to you. And a few people took it personal, and it wasn't personal, and it's like, bro, listen, man,
it's
like
business.
We're it's just, this is where we are now,
Yeah.
And
and it, obviously it's one of those things that like, and I'm not like nowhere near offended at all. You don't remember this, but like 2012, it was I'd started a clothing line called Downtown Heroes, and so my best friend Steiner, I was like, oh, I got to figure out a way for us to like business wise be able to expense like some paint for us to do whatever we can. And so I was like trying to like sponsor him or whatever. And I remember I'd reached out to just like info at whatever, like the generic email, and you replied and you're like, no, we don't do really like business discounts or anything like that. Like it's not something we do, but here, man, you gave me like a code or some shit and you're like, here's like a friends and family discount type thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way. I was like, dude, it's on, like, and I just remember fucking, I pretty much ordered everything online because at that point I was like doing so many things, but I did go one time to like grab some paint off of you, and I was like super toy and excited, and I was just like, I'm not gonna be that like nerdy kid that I'm like, oh my God, but yeah, that was like a cool experience, and it's actually funny, like years later after you left, at that point I'd already been screen printing for hella years, and that became Anthem Screen Supply. And I still kept going to that, same warehouse, just to buy my screen printing supplies from them. And so I was like, yeah, I fucking used to come here before you guys, So yeah, it's good memories for me. But so now with that time period of you distributing, like I want to, I was talking about Infamy because that's kind of like around the time, right? Around like I think 2002, 2003. When was that recorded?
Yeah. I think 2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was like roughly a year after.
Wait. Yeah, it was about a year after we started Montana, I think. Mm-hmm. A year after we had gotten aware, like we went from like the paint at our house and our cars to like a real warehouse and stuff. So yeah.
Sure. How did that, who reached out to you? Like, how did you get involved with that documentary? Yeah.
Well, Roger Gassman, who I knew from Washington, D.C., because he was a writer from D.C.
Gotcha.
And we had painted together, and we had mutual friends and stuff. Sure. So
he was like, well, you're distributing all this stuff.
And since he also had gotten around the country a little bit, and he did While You're Sleeping magazine. Okay. And so he already had an idea, like, Jase is not just a Bay Area writer. I mean, he's got Baltimore and D.C. and Oakland.
I mean, you're coast to coast, and obviously with the freight.
Yeah, and he'd seen it, so that's why he put the recommendation in for me.
Sure.
Thank you, Roger.
And okay, and so how like when you got that, hey, we want to record you and interview you, and like, what was your initial thought process for that? You're like, oh, what the fuck, like I'm they're hitting me up for graffiti, but like.
What do you mean?
Like, like, I mean, you get like, do you get like an email, a call, or like, hey man, like we're doing this documentary, like what,
Oh, well, Roger hit me up.
Oh, okay.
Because he was like, I don't remember if he's an executive producer or I think so.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, he was the lead, and he explained the whole thing to me and told me who was going to be in it. And then he was like, we don't want to have people with masks and make it look like some like,
yeah. Like they're recording criminals and shit like that. Like,
yeah, we don't want it to look like some fucking like drug smuggling thing or something. You know what I mean? Plus, it'll just make the whole culture look. But it's not the angle they want to go for. Blah blah.
Right, right.
Anyway, I was like, yeah, and at the same time, SF was going through some changes too, right? Where like, there was an element of like, yeah, you got me on camera, but. Do you have me holding my ID up to the camera? No, you don't. So you can't really prove that that's me.
Yeah.
There was a lot of plausible deniability, how liberal it was getting. It's like, that doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
That you got me on camera. Like, do you have multiple witnesses?
Yeah.
And do you have me holding my ID up to the camera?
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was a matter of like, who cares if you got my face? You still got to catch me doing it in the act.
Did you feel weird about it though initially? Like,
no.
You're just like, all right, cool, I'm down.
I mean, afterwards, there was a thought of like, I hope that doesn't bite me in the ass. Like if the wrong person decides like, I'm going to make it my thing to get this motherfucker or all these people in this movie,
Yeah, now I know what he looks like.
But I started being a little bit smarter about the shit I was hitting.
Sure.
Nobody was looking into freights. I mean, you could get caught doing them, and I did. Mm-hmm. But like most of the people that were like getting investigated for freights were like in the East Coast, like in Florida, they were pretty harsh about it.
Gotcha.
And, there wasn't none of that in the Bay Area, but
sure.
You definitely still get arrested doing it.
I mean, and that was kind of like I mean, and obviously it's extremely popular, and I feel like all graffiti writers know it, but like it's very niche at the same time that I don't think like the population at large is necessarily aware of it.
Yeah.
So with that video, like, did you ever meet anybody else? You know, like that. You know, I mean, obviously NM because he's your crewmate, but like,
Yeah.
You know, like Earsnot, Tumor.
Well, I had met Saber before in SF.
Oh, okay.
And we had, I had lots of mutual friends in MSK, and Norm and Grime, and they were in it. And I'd never met Claw or Tumor before, but then when they had the release in New York, they had us all there.
Oh,
and,
okay.
We all met during the day one day, and like even Joe Conley was there. And we went.
Oh, sick.
We went to have lunch, and this. I don't even think Rod was there. It was just all of us together walking down the street in New York, and Earsnot, and we were catching tags and during the day, and
with Joe
right there, like. And,
was he doing all my bitches?
And he didn't do any tags. But,
Yeah.
That was like the moment where you were like, maybe this guy isn't the anti-graffiti guy that
There's
he
no
is.
way he's anti-graffiti.
You know what I mean?
like literally, like as you watch it, you're like, dude, like, I mean, because there was also that video like not that long on Netflix, Vigilant Vigilante, right? And it's like you start looking at it and you're like, dude, those guys are just writers in a different way. Like, I mean,
they're fans.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to. That guy definitely made some people angry, and he didn't mess up any of my work. But there's definitely people in LA whose work that he destroyed, and I don't blame them for being mad or being like fuck that guy, or even being mad.
Sure.
Like they don't even want you talking to him, which I understand. But he's I saw him last night actually at the Gray Show.
Oh, really?
I talked to him for a minute. He's a nice guy. I've met his wife.
Yeah.
He's not someone we're not going to go painting.
Yeah. He's just going to do a big old gray square next
but like
to you.
he's just a human being, and I think he's a fan.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah. That's cool, man. How was the premiere?
The one in New York.
Yeah.
It was cool, man. I mean, there was some unexpected beef that I didn't know about, not with myself, but with like NM, and I think later that night there was some fights, and I can't remember. Earsnot got into it with someone, but I think it was unrelated to the movie, and
Okay.
and there was some stuff going on with NM and some Philly guys in New York, and I mean, my boys from Baltimore came. It was a great weekend. I had a blast. I mean, it was weird because some of the things I talk about like my history, my family and stuff. It's weird, like being in a room full of people and seeing that, and like maybe if in hindsight I would have said things a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Not much, but I don't know. It's very, I had to become very vulnerable, but I've always kind of been like a what you see is what you get kind of person, like,
Yeah.
Lots of things that I've done I'm not proud of, but I'm not going to pretend like I didn't do them.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
stuff like that,
I mean, it's made you who you are today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's crazy that you also have like, all that footage of you like painting in the tunnels and stuff like that, like how did you, cause I mean, the tunnels pretty much came to like an end in like 2006, it's like, I mean, you were really just like on the tail end of like painting that spot, like how'd you,
2006? Well, not really. I mean, cause I've been in the tunnels since the early 90s.
No. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm saying like the buff.
Oh yeah.
Of like all those tunnels are just completely buff now.
Right.
They're just like, all gray.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy to think that like,
Well, I never really took transit, so I only went in there on foot to do graffiti. So it was, you know what I mean? Like
fair enough. Yeah. No, yeah. I by like, when I moved back to San Francisco from LA, I was like, 2010, and I just remember like going on there and I was just like, dude, there's nothing here. It's crazy.
The cities go through those. We talked about this before, like transitions, or everyone gets caught, or the government, local government changes and they buff everything,
Sure.
and somebody gets made example of, or something like that, and it goes in cycles, and then it all starts over again. And like, especially in a place like SF where there's a lot of writers in a small space, buffing it is not going to do anything except for propel it forward, because there's so many people who are like, finally I can get that spot.
Yeah.
Finally, I've been wanting to hit that electrical box on my corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it gets buffed because I'm going to hit it again tomorrow.
Sure.
You know, like cleaning it is not going to solve anything.
And I'm curious, like after you talked about Montana, do you think that movie affected your business? Like, did it help the business grow? Like more people are like aware that like, oh, Montana's available, or like,
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't remember seeing any change.
Like an uptick in sales or something like that?
Not really. No.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, I was a little concerned that Spain, when they saw them, because, we're talking about illegalities and things like that. And they had already had a few problems they had put some videos out of like French Paris transit that they had sponsored. And they got like some letters from the transit authority in Paris being like, hey,
this is your fault.
Hey, like, get your shit together. I don't know the details, but one
Sure.
of those things. And so I was a little worried they'd be like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have said this, or maybe you shouldn't have showed this or that. But they were very supportive. Jordy was the owner of the company at the time. He was very supportive. And
I mean, you guys kind of covered yourselves in a way because there's that section, right, where Neon's like, we're not, like condoning illegal graffiti. We're just, selling paint, and what they do is their business, So,
of course.
So that's kind of like, it's true, right?
Yeah. And also, that graffiti in America was like a bad word, but it's not in Europe,
Oh, yeah.
And so that was like we were trying to get past that, and like we are now. I think we are past that
for sure.
Especially in Southern California, in the Bay Area. Maybe not so much in like other parts of America, but most of it now, that's no longer like a bad word. Like
for sure.
It's not as negative anymore. It doesn't have to mean illegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although,
no, I mean, you can.
When we're talking about purist graffiti, sure it does.
But
But
no, for sure. I mean, you can make a career if you know how to market yourself in the right way. There's still. I completely agree with you. We were talking about how there's graffiti comes in waves, and there's sometimes like a little bit of a lull. And I felt definitely in the early 2000s there was a little bit of a lull for sure. And then I feel like, at least for me, 2010 kind of started upticking again, with more and more graffiti and kind of people, because there was that era, once again, this is my experience, where it was like, Echo, all right, like getting up and like, it was all cool. And then now it's like, I would not be caught dead wearing Echo or like Johnny Blaze or like Fubu.
Jenko.
Which is crazy to me.
It's coming back.
Dude. I mean, like a motherfucker. It's so crazy seeing like, these kids with like, I'm not going to blast who it is, but I was hanging out with this kid who's like, I mean, just absolutely, well, I can tell you, I can bleep it out too, but it was, I'm sure you've heard of.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the kid's fucking, his rappelling that he does is insane. He's murdering San Francisco. And, he hit me up and he's just like, yo, can you, do some drone shots of my shit? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And we like met up and kicked it. And I was just like, you look like a fucking PS1 character. Like no joke, dude. Like he's got spiky hair and like big Jenko jeans and this tight little shirt, and like
a character, like
skater
character.
chains,
old school graffiti,
dude, 100%. And I was just like, there's no way. You look like me when I was 13. You could put a fucking Super Nintendo in your back pocket because it's so fucking huge. Like it's just insane. The kid was super cool, but it's so funny how like, divorced dad rock, like, Creed and Deftones and all that shit is like back in, and, kind of like, it's funny how things come in waves. But anyways, so I do want to talk about like international travel, because you had mentioned at one point you went to Asia. And that was one thing that, you and I kind of connected on, because you were like, oh, Mutter. I'm guessing Mutter's maybe a little bit later on, but like, your first trip to international, what was that like? Where did you go for your first trip?
I went straight to Bangkok because I wanted to go to Vietnam. And at the time, we didn't have normal relations, U.S. with Vietnam, so you couldn't fly right to Vietnam.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you had to go to Thailand to get to Vietnam.
No shit. What year was that?
2001.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Was this before 9/11 or after?
Right after.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so you landed into Bangkok. What was like your first experience? Like,
Man, I was overwhelmed. It's like, the city's changed a lot, but it's like hectic, dark with like neon lights and like noisy and like, you know, when you go out at night and like, especially around the red light areas, you're like, man, it's like the Warriors movie in Vegas mixed together, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Sick, dude. And I mean, I doubt there's any, like, I mean, maybe a little bit, but like, well, there was no graffiti, right?
No, there
Or,
was
like,
there was barely any
2001,
any graffiti. So when I knew I was going out there, I was like, okay, I'm going to do graffiti. You know, maybe I should try to link up with someone. So
Yeah.
did some searching. I found like a little chat, and I found someone's email, and I figured out who it was. It was Cider MSK,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and
Shout out to homie.
there was he's my boy.
Yeah.
At the time, though, we had some issues because him and Fate had some problems with Misk from BA in San Francisco. They had
Okay.
done something. I don't remember what the original beef started over, but like some shit started back and forth, this and that. I wasn't involved other than being in the crew.
Yeah.
So I hit him up. I was like, hey man, you know, I'm going to come out there. I know our crews have some differences, but, you know, if you want to paint, I'm down. And he was like, sure, man, let's link up, you know?
Yeah.
And he came at me like the first day and was like excellent host.
Yeah.
Showed me a few things like, oh, you don't want to stay over here, and you want to, you know, if you want to
he's a
do
great
this,
guy.
do this, go over here and go
Yeah.
over there and get this, and this is the kind of paint and this kind of caps, and this is like, and like really, he was the only one.
Fucking with the Leyland.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say some of the guys would be like, he wasn't the only one, but there was no graffiti, you know.
Yeah.
And the few guys that were doing it, I met them, and man, I just ran with it because it was like no phobias of the spot, and like
Yeah.
the city was open 24 hours.
Yeah.
You could buy beer 24 hours, pharmacy, anything you wanted.
Yeah.
So I was going off. Like I was just like walking and racking paint and racking beers and just like walking for hours and hours and hours and hours, catching throw ups and tags and
Damn.
just hitting everything I wanted. And like, because the city was clean and the culture is different, people would just look at you like, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
There was no negative reaction,
No,
you know?
not at all.
And, man, I ran with it, and, city's crushed now.
Fuck.
It's impressive. I'm proud of those guys.
Fuck yeah, dude. I mean, Bangkok is. I mean, there's graffiti everywhere. You know, it's like it's crazy. You know, when I went to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, Koh Tao, and then back to Bangkok. And it's. I mean, there wasn't a section of where I'd went where there wasn't graffiti.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I got to paint when I went to Bangkok. I was with Cider, Coes, GIA, Gasso, PVC. Who else was there? Fuck. There's a dude, Aris.
So if you were there when Gesso was there, then I was there then.
Last year?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit. Mm-hmm. Oh, so we could have potentially have painted.
Yeah.
You know, at one point. Yeah, we were only in Bangkok for like 4 days, and then, you know, like my lady
I was there for a month at that time.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck. That would have been cool to meet you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was cool. I was really excited. And then Mutter came, and then, you know, he like caught a throwy.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, he's the homie.
Yeah. And then, you know, obviously I you know, I don't know the local graffiti there. So I was like, oh, nice to meet you, man. You know, and he like hit a 228 for me. And then I'm like driving around the city. I'm like, holy fuck, this dude kills it.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like,
Yeah. I mean, if
very
you think
impressive.
about it, like Bangkok is a third bigger than New York City.
yeah.
And man, some of those guys are fucking everywhere you go in Bangkok and beyond
Yeah.
Bangkok. Like it's impressive
Yeah.
with field and throw-ups.
Yeah. It's cool, man. So, okay. So, so you landed in Bangkok. Obviously how long did you go there?
Okay. So my plan was just to be there a week and then get on
shit.
about this. I wanted to go
To Vietnam.
I
Yeah.
wanted to go to Laos where my dad was reported missing.
Yeah.
I met from Cider. I met Ofe from San Francisco,
Okay.
and he was like a bus operator dude, and he had moved there a couple years before that, and he was DJing.
shit.
So me and him became friends.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hey man, like we met randomly. I was Cider told me to go to this bar, and I ended up talking to the DJ, and we just started talking about SF. somehow he got on the graffiti, and I'd said, like, and he was like, "Are you the guy that did JE's in San Francisco?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh shit, dude." He's like,
Sick.
"Man, dude." He's like, "All right, you know." Told me what he wrote. I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen that."
Oh,
OFA,
shit.
you know. So I'm like, "Cool." He's like, "Dude, you're gonna go to Laos and Vietnam and stuff." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, if you can put that off for a couple of weeks, I'll go with you."
Oh.
And like, you know, it's weird because we just met. Like, this is the first conversation we had, you know.
Yeah.
And like, it was kind of like, eh. And again, the next night we hung out again,
Mm-hmm.
and he turned me on some different things in the city and stuff, and like, yeah, let's go here and go there. And I was like, all right, man, I'll wait for you.
Yeah.
And so I did.
It's
And,
funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
it's okay.
I-
Like those 2 weeks, I planted some roots. You know, like
Yeah.
I started learning about
Yeah.
the city, and which was also came into where I was saying I was walking around doing lots of graffiti,
Sure.
and so yeah, he went with me.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how graffiti's the only. Well, there's two things actually now later in life, but there's only two things that I've ever experienced where you could just become friends instantaneously, and like almost like trust each other, and that's just graffiti and motorcycles because like I ride with hella
Absolutely.
people, but like
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean graffiti. It's like it's been now like I've been all over the world, and it's just like to like text someone and be like, hey, I'm gonna be in your area, we should kick it sometime, and you're like, yeah, let's go ahead, break the law and
Yeah.
paint for hours on end.
So yeah, man. I mean, meeting writers and traveling is key, you know. And it's such we're family. We're kind of tribe, if you will. We have mutual understanding, and plus you enjoy it. You want to absorb what they do and what they know about, and learn
Yeah.
styles and techniques and stories, and
Sure. Yeah.
you just feel comfortable around them. I mean, for me, it's like at my age now, I don't have any men in my life that aren't involved in graffiti. I have no friends that don't break graffiti.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you ever been somewhere and it's like, I don't even like get out of my element where like, I have a son, so I might end up at some school thing and like somebody's dad's trying to talk to me about something. And I'm just like, I don't know, bro. Like,
No, I agree. I completely understand. I know where you're coming from for sure. Cause I was just like, what? You're just talking to me about some civilian stuff.
Yeah. And, it's like, it used to, I mean, I think maybe it just changed with AIDS, but before, but like, hey, so-and-so's coming to town. You think you could like put them up? Some of them you don't even know. And you're like, yeah, sure. No problem.
Yeah.
Can you take them pain? That's always hit or miss, right? Mm-hmm. Usually it's cool.
Yeah.
Run into a problem. Maybe nothing like crazy, but
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, most of the time, right? It's like your friends, so they kind of like vet it beforehand.
Yeah,
and
but
like, I'm not going to
sometimes,
send some.
sometimes they don't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or
have you ever had like an instance? Like, I mean, you don't got to say
I-
names or nothing, but like,
Sure, I've had a few liabilities that came into my life. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
like, what the fuck are you doing in my living room?
Right. Or just gone painting with them and
Oh.
then realize like, oh shit, this is a liability.
Yeah, yeah, sketch.
Yeah. And if any of you guys that I've met and stay with me, and if we're friends, we're friends, and we're not talking about you. And there's people on the fringes that I barely had interaction with, you know what I mean? And most likely these people that were the problem don't even write anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So obviously, Thailand was it. I'd love to know, just out of curiosity, but like, what was like Vietnam and Laos, like popping into those things, like, did you, were you able to like check out, those areas and like look up, potentially where, like your dad was?
Yeah. So, originally I wasn't sure if I was going to go to Vietnam because I wanted to go to Laos, as my dad was killed and reported missing in Laos during the Secret War. And so I go to Laos and get into some shit there with my friend Ove, and at the time Laos was still like very like way back in time, like so very communist, still very suspicious. They still had bandits running around in the woods fighting the Vietnam War.
Fuck.
Yeah, so I had gone to the embassy to tell them what I was going to do, and they were just like, dude, like, it's pretty risky, and like nobody's ever come here and tried to do this before. So
Yeah.
like, and like, I showed them this map I had, and they were like, it was a map that showed all the villages, the ones that had survived the war and the ones that had been bombed and shit,
Yeah.
and the different fire bases and shit. And they was like, if you got caught with that, I think you're going to have serious problems and shit, you know?
Fuck.
But, you know, they gave me some advice, some phone numbers, like, you know, go to this place, talk to this guy, do this and that.
Yeah.
So I did that, and we had to lie to tell them why we were there. We couldn't tell them why exactly what we were going to do. Mm-hmm. So we came up with this plan that we were trying to look for this like endangered bird species, you know, that we wanted to take photos of and shit.
Okay.
And also at the time, they had allowed a couple like forensics teams to come and look for missing soldiers in Laos, but not in Vietnam. So there was a couple people out there looking for shit.
Oh.
And so they were suspicious that some of these people had brought like CIA with them and like as a cover to get into the country, you know, because they were thinking these guys are coming back, going to start the war up again, and they're going to, you know, all this bullshit. So during the process of it, them trying to get me to take me out to where I thought that my dad's helicopter had been shot down, the guys driving it started piecing together like there's something not right here, you know?
Yeah.
And we got out to where it was, and we started walking out there, and like the whole area was like mined, and had like a lot of like unexploded ordnance. So like all along the trails, it was like, do not step off this trail, you know?
Fuck.
And we came across like a tank in the woods, and there had this one Laotian dude with me, and I caught a streaker tag on it.
I was about to ask, did you catch a tag, but I didn't know if that was appropriate.
There was a stencil on it, like an old stencil, right? It said something in the Laotian language.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, what's that say? And I know this is not what it said, but he just goes, it says, do not vandalize, you know, because he was pissed, you know. I was like, whatever, we're like out in the fucking jungle, like,
yeah,
whatever. I walk a little further, and then I came across like a howitzer. It was like half sticking out of the ground, and on the end of the barrel, it said "Made in Yuma, California," and I was like, "Wow, it's fucking trippy, dude." You know, it was trippy.
yeah.
So I got to like where I believe was the area, made my piece, and then the dude's just like, "You guys are fucking out of here. Let's go." You know, they were pissed because I went off the trail too in the mined area and shit.
Oh fuck.
And they knew it wasn't about like birds and shit. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of like, fuck off, you know? And the locals were not very happy either. Some villages that we walked through, they had like cluster bomb containers from the war as planters in front of their huts and shit. And like,
fuck.
They were not happy to see us there at all.
Yeah.
We got back to the car, and they're like, we're taking you guys to the border, and you're deported. You're out of here, you know? And my friend's like, then fuck you. And I was like, yeah, fuck you. And he's like, dude, do we have a problem right now? Yeah, we do have a fucking problem. And he's like, we'll just fucking walk. And they're like, no, you're not fucking walking. They immediately drove us to the border and like kicked us out of the country into Vietnam, which we didn't even want to go into Vietnam.
Damn.
Walked across the border.
Did you have all your stuff with you? Or I mean,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Book bag, you know.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Just like backpacking.
Yeah. Got across the border, walked a ways, got to this like tiny town, and I mean like one building, you know. And they're like, yeah, there's like a transit thing, which was just a minivan that would go back and forth from there to Hue, right?
Yeah.
So we get in that, and along the way they started letting more people in and more people in.
Yeah.
And like people started like triple lapping in the van, you know? And we stop, and there's some like Vietnamese army guys, and they go to let them in, and they start coming to the back, and the only place left to sit on someone's lap is our laps. And I was like, I don't fucking think so, bud. And the dude's just looking at me and like thinking, like expecting me to make him some room to sit on my lap. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about like, as much about like, I don't want some strange dude on my lap. It was about also like the connotation of the Vietnamese soldier, and all this shit was happening at the same time. You know, I was like,
yeah,
fuck out of my face, dude.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He like quadrupled on someone else's fucking lap, and the other guy like sat on the floor, you know?
Wild.
And we got the way, and we got out or by Dong Ha, I think. And we're like, okay, now what the fuck do we do, you know?
Yeah.
And this dude came up to us and he's like, "Hey, you guys American?" He spoke pretty good English. We're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, I used to live in the Bay Area, man." He's like, He's like, as I learned English, I used to be a translator in the Vietnam War for the South Vietnamese Army, and I went to jail after we lost, and then I moved to the Bay, and then I moved back here, you know. And he's like, "Come with me, I'll take care of you guys, you know."
Let's get some drinks.
And my friend's kind of like, you know, this could be the start of a setup, which is true. It could have been, you know.
Yeah.
But fuck it, had nothing else to lose. I mean, what are they going to steal?
Yeah.
We had backpacks, you know.
Yeah. And you guys are like in another country, not expected to get there, you know, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so the dude was solid, and we went to his house. His family made us dinner. We hung out. We stayed there for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Talked all about the war and talked about my dad and
Damn.
and everything. And he had some other friends come meet us who wanted to meet us and shit. And then he explained, you know, you should just get on this train here, go to Saigon, and like see what's up. So we did that. Took the train to Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City. I'm still calling it Saigon. And you know, did a little graffiti there, not much.
Yeah. Was there any graffiti in Saigon?
No.
Oh, okay.
Had a few weird experiences, like, you know, like my friend got a coffee. He got that Chone coffee, the coffee that they feed to
The monkeys and shit?
They feed it to civet cats, right?
Oh, okay.
Espresso
Yeah.
beans.
That's right.
That's all they feed them, and then they brew the coffee out of their shit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's supposed
I've
to be
heard
like
about
the
that.
strongest coffee in the world, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't even drink coffee. My buddy, I drank it with him, and he's like, "Dude, I don't feel right. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty gacked. Like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
freaking wired.
I'm fine though." And he's like, "What else can we get into here?" They had absinthe there, which was totally
shit.
legal. So started drinking absinthe, and that just led into all this other shit. And like, you know,
Sure.
we got wild that night. Stayed there a couple days, a week, and then went to Cambodia from there. And that was like a whole another planet. I mean, that was like the Wild West. I mean, there's people at that time, there's people walking around with AK-47 still. And like you would go to bars and there'd be a sign at the bar that said no AKs, no hand grenades.
No hand grenades.
Yeah.
Wild.
You could buy AKs. You could go, I shot an RPG one day,
Holy fuck.
threw hand grenades, like it was fucking wild, man. Seeing all kinds of shit. I went to like the was it S7 or S11, the place where the Khmer Rouge tortured and killed everyone, basically like the concentration camp, the torture facility. And you know, I felt it's a museum, but the locals were not proud of the museum. You know what I mean? Like we wanted to see it, but they were bummed. Like, man, you really want to see that? You know? And
Yeah, like-
I felt that, and I felt bad about it.
Yeah,
but
like
I
that's
felt
what
like-
we're known for.
Yeah, I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to see other shit about Cambodia too, but
Yeah.
I understand that they're like not something that we're proud of, but it is a museum, and fuck it, we'll take it. We'll take you there, you know?
Yeah.
And that was pretty horrifying. Some of the torture devices they had in there and shit was insane. Anyway, completed that, went back to Bangkok and to trace back about the lousing and like my dad. What I learned from that trip was it was a hectic, shitty day. The ground there is like super like red, powdery soils. You take a step and like dust kicks up, and like the air has like red dust in the air, you know, like, so
Crazy.
you can imagine in wartime, it
Yeah.
was probably like fog with dirt,
Yeah.
you know, because of all the shit getting kicked up. I was
Yeah.
like, this fucking place sucks. And I was like, if anything, my dad's been with me the whole time. And when I went back there, he was like, you know what? I'll wait for you over here. Just go to, you know, like,
Yeah.
I'm not going there with you. So it was settling in that aspect, because just knowing, like seeing it, touching it is like, okay, I can put this past me
Yeah.
a bit now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that had come together, and I'd gone back to Thailand, and I had no return trip ticket. So, I mean, I just thought I was going to go Bangkok, Laos, Bangkok, and back to San Francisco. But
Sure.
now it'd been like a month. And I was like, fuck it, man. I just end up hanging out, and that turned into like 6, 8, 7 months.
Oh shit.
I started writing, I started partying, and like partying took to another level. And like,
Yeah.
My girlfriend, who was in my apartment in San Francisco at the time, she's like, what the fuck? Are you coming back or what? You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so she flew out there, and the first day we go to eat, and she just starts yelling at me at this restaurant. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody has pissed me off in months. Like, this shit is over, dude. Like, I'm done. Like, you're tripping.
Is this the same one from Infamy?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. I was like, no, fuck out of here, you know? And she was shocked. And she immediately returned home, and I stayed. And yeah,
I've been great without you. You can
I mean, I
leave.
never even had a thought of like, we're going to break up. Like, everything was fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Until I saw what it was like being single, and not just, you know, what comes with being single,
Right.
but nobody like bitching at me, you know what I mean? Which just
Yeah.
comes with any relationship.
Sure.
And so as soon as that happened on day one,
Yeah.
the shocking difference of that from one day to the next, I was like, fuck no, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
How long it already been? A couple months since you'd seen her? You're like 6, 7 months, right?
it had been a month.
Oh, it had been a month since you'd seen her,
Yeah.
and then you stayed for like 6.
Or no, it
7?
had been like 2 months. It had been a month for the traveling. Then I stayed another month. So then she came,
Oh,
and then, I was like, dude, nobody's pissed me off. And I'm like, fuck,
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I ended up staying for a while.
Okay.
And the only reason I came back is because I had a court date in Oakland for traits, and I had to come back for that
Okay.
because I kept having my lawyer put it off and put it off and put it off. And he's like, dude, you got to show up for this shit. Like,
Yeah.
and I did.
Okay.
And I got like a stat docket or something. Didn't turn out to be that bad.
Oh, okay.
Wish we could phone it in, but no.
Okay. So after 6, 7 months, you come back. You're back in the Bay Area. You know, just getting back into the swing of things again.
Yeah.
Did you where did you travel after? Like, or were you like, okay, all right, I gotta.
Well, at first I thought I'm going to go home, handle this court date, and then I'm going to move to Thailand. I love this shit, you know?
Oh, okay.
I went back, did the court date, and within like 2 weeks, I ended up meeting this girl. The girl was in Infamy, and we hit it off really well pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, we moved in together, just ran from there. One of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go back to Thailand. At least
And that was before the distribution, right?
the distribution started right at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's kind of like what solidified you staying.
Well, yeah. Also, like, you know,
Yeah.
then I had a vested interest. I couldn't like be traveling because we're trying
Sure.
to get this business going, right?
Of course. Yeah. Okay. So now we're into distribution. Any notable places, I mean, I'm sure you've traveled all over the world at this point, but like, any notable places like right after, that you're like, okay, I got my business running and everything's smooth sailing. I mean, I'm sure, with any business, it's never smooth sailing, but like,
Yeah.
once you kind of get to a point where you're like coasting, any trips that you're like, oh, this sticks out for me because I did, A,
Well, I
B,
went
and C.
to. I had to go to Spain, and I went to Spain with Myan, and I ran into pretty much the first or second day, I ran into Rust from DC, which is an old friend and
Sick.
influence of mine, and Reek from NSF crew from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Basically, both on the same day,
Damn.
randomly,
Yeah.
And so we're like, we were partying, writing, and just having a great time. And then after Spain, I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's just go do some other shit. So we went to France, and we went to Germany, and we went to Denmark and Holland. And Denmark was great. Danish people are great. I love them. They're kindest, nicest people I met on that trip. Had a lot of fun there doing graffiti. Graffiti scene there is great.
What year was this?
2003, I think.
Okay. How long were you out in Europe?
A little over a month.
Okay.
Yeah, and Amsterdam, and then went back to Germany, and then Czechoslovakia, and then back to Spain, and then I came back.
So in 2003, because I mean, obviously Spain is Spain, but like I feel like nowadays, I feel like Spain is kind of like a first, when people first getting into travel, I always feel like everyone goes to Spain now. What was graffiti like in Spain in like 2003? I mean,
Man,
obviously
it was crushed.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah.
But it was crushed.
Yeah.
It was very impressive.
Yeah. How was European graffiti impactful to you?
Well, obviously the trains, like we'd all seen the magazines, like,
Sure.
and you're thinking like, fuck, is it just like easy or what? Like,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
how are they doing this? Because people are doing clean trains now, but
Yeah.
in that time period, that was extremely rare
Right.
in America.
Yeah.
And people were getting arrested for freights, much less transit, right?
Sure.
So that wasn't really happening. That was impressive. So that was influencing. So I'd have to say, like, there wasn't a lot of like lettering styles I was super impressed with as far as the dudes that were doing
Yeah.
the trains.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like big solid letters, like chunky stuff. I was like more into my traditional like window down wild styles and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much whole cars and like, that's great and fucking awesome, but wasn't something that inspired me a whole lot, but it's impressive nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking sick. Europe's tight, and it's a whole different thing. So when you went to Spain, was that just like a business trip or like
Well, yeah, I went to go to because we had business relations, so I went there,
and then stayed after.
Yeah.
Okay. When did Spray Planet get its start?
In 2015.
Oh, okay.
Well,
so,
actually, the very end of 2014. So
okay,
yeah, 10 years here.
10 years, sick. How did that get started?
Spray Planet came about because Montana wanted to buy the distribution from me and Myan for America. They weren't super happy about the way it was going. And, it was really hard, like maintaining the paint because, you got to buy the paint, you got to pay it back or you could pay for what you could. They would front some and you'd have to pay it back. Then there's like a lag between, it takes like a month to get there.
Sure.
It's really hard to keep all the colors in stock. It's like a difficult thing. And there's, it's like we didn't have like unlimited supply of money to just like have tons of paint around.
Sure.
So it's really hard to like break into the next level of like getting stores like Blick or whatever, because you're constantly running out of paint. Right.
Yeah.
And so they were on us about, can't you guys get loans and like move us to the next level. And it just wasn't feasible, especially not living in the Bay Area, because it's such an expensive place for us to even just live there and run a business.
Live there, the warehouse.
And so there was talks of like, are you guys sure that's the best place to do it? And it's like, he's like homegrown in San Francisco, and it was all I knew. Basically, since Baltimore, I was like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So they eventually were like, okay, we're gonna have to take over. And it was, not get into too much detail. It was a bit of a hostile takeover, and then they said they were going to move it to Los Angeles, and me and Neon were done with it. And then they asked me to come work for them, and I agreed to that. Neon was not happy about that, and I understand his position. He was a little salty about the way things broke up. So I came on my own and started the building up Spray Planet right here from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this the original warehouse?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been here since like late 2014?
Yeah.
Damn. How was that transition for you? I mean, like, being in the Bay Area, I'm sure you'd been to LA at least before a couple of times.
Well, in the warehouse, we're in Orange County. It's not LA.
Well, yeah,
it's so different. However, the transition is, there's the basics. It's like the weather's decent. Like in SF, I didn't leave the house without a hoodie. I didn't even have shorts unless I was going on vacation somewhere,
Right.
So there's that. And there's like, all of a sudden I can park my car if I just want a sandwich. You're like in SF, like you could be like, damn, I just want to go in that store and there's no place to park the fucking car,
You gotta walk like 4 blocks.
Right. So it was nice getting past that.
Yeah.
But then there was like the element of like, at least in Orange County, you stand out a little bit more. You can't be like bombing. I could bomb right outside my neighborhood in SF. Mm-hmm. That's not a smart move around here.
Yeah.
getting profiled a little. I started noticing like going into stores and people like profiling me as far as like potential shoplifter and shit, which I never felt in the Bay Area, you know, things like that. And then there's like the driving aspect, you know, I rarely left San Francisco except for to go to Oakland to paint freight. So
Sure.
didn't spend that much time in the car, but here it's like, dude, if I got to go to LA and it's during traffic time, like it could end up being an hour and a half.
Yeah.
If it's like a bad case scenario, and like that just kills my whole vibe.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of getting used to that. And
Yeah, it's so huge. I
Yeah.
mean, even I always like I try to avoid saying like current events with a podcast because, you know, someone might listen to this 10 years from now. But like obviously there's like the Beyond the Streets gallery tonight.
yeah,
And I looked at it and I was like, fuck, 57 minutes, you know, to
Right.
to get there. And I was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
do it.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Sick, man. Well, fuck, that's crazy that, you know, you've been here since then. You know, how have you seen the business grow? Like, you know,
we've grown exponentially every year.
yeah.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You having an inside scoop to obviously, you know, professional graffiti paint, you know,
yeah.
having that knowledge, you know, like, you know, what are your thoughts on it? You know, the fact that like, you know, I mean, you kind of said it in infamy, like the fact that like this many caps, you know, get like used, you know, on a weekly basis, you know, it's
Right.
like, you know, I mean, you literally are here, you know, on the ground floor distributing it to so many people, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, how is that you're like, fuck, dude, like, I can't, you know, to be such a huge part of like such a huge underground movement that
Yeah, I
started
mean, it's
here in the
interesting
USA.
to like, because, you know, we know how much paint is moving here, but we also know like which cities it like using the most paint, but we also keep tabs on the competitors. And I have a pretty good idea
Yeah.
of how much paint is being sold and where it's being used at. And man, Los Angeles, like that's where most of the paint is going for all the companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
LA is crushed. I
Yeah.
mean, every freeway, you know,
Yeah.
you can't go anywhere without seeing graffiti fucking in LA for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's obviously other companies. You know, I've tried pretty much everything under the sun, but I pretty much being, you know, the financial aspect of it, I basically, what I do is I just wait for your Black Friday sales.
Yeah.
And then I go and buy like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of fucking dollars worth. And that you know, and I still to this day, I mean, from last Black Friday, I probably got like a good 7 cases still.
Yeah. There's good deals.
Yeah.
There's definitely still good deals.
Yeah. I mean, that for me, that's been the way to go. You know, I just fucking dump like, you know, a little under a rack at the end of the year. And I'm like, all right, I'm good for the year.
Yeah.
So that's been like my go-to, you know, but, yeah, Montana's great, man. Like, you know, I gotta ask, I mean, I'm sure, have you tried other, you know,
Yeah,
paint?
of course.
Yeah. You know,
all the time.
yeah.
I mean, because some of the main competing brands, I haven't used it in a while because I already tried it and I already know.
Yeah.
But when new stuff comes out, we get it and we try it
Yeah.
and see, you know, how it
Like the
interact-
newer paints and shit that have like come out in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we try it and we see how it interacts with our paint and the different caps and this and that because I want to know, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Market research and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I can't like talk about the paint if I don't really know what I'm talking about, you know. And
Sure.
I use tons of Montana, but like I gotta understand how it all works together.
Yeah. What do you think? Just curiosity. What do you think about Rusto getting into the you know, low pressure
I mean, I
graffiti oriented
think
business?
I think at the first moment of hearing about it, like many writers, you're like, okay, cool. But then once you have a moment to think about it, you're like, wait a minute. Like they funded anti-graffiti for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of comments of people saying, like, yeah, you guys changed the valves to fuck with. I don't think they did that specifically for graffiti. I could be wrong. I think it's a cost saving thing. It was just cheaper.
Yeah.
And probably had something to do with the production, the way the assembly line works, you know?
Yeah.
But this new paint is like, I've used it and dude, it takes like a whole can to do a 2-letter throw up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's
yeah,
11 ounces, not actually 12. I
It's-
don't know if an ounce is like really that
but
negligible.
I'm not even sure if I believe that.
Oh, really?
because I used it, you know?
Yeah.
And the caps don't work the same. They are all completely different, even though it's the same type of, basically it's like one or two caps and cap companies that make all the caps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the same logo you can tell the LI on the front, on the top. They don't work the same on that can.
Oh, really?
It doesn't come out very, very nice. There's some good colors, but if you're like spraying like short little things like crafts or some artwork, okay, not a problem. But it's not made for graffiti.
Yeah.
You know? And like on top of that, it's like
$13 at fucking Home Depot.
the price, right? So
Yeah.
look at the can. The can is paper labeled.
Yeah.
Yes, it has a female valve, but it's a cheap one because you can tell that because the way the caps don't work very well. They fit on there, but they don't work well, right? Acrylic is also slightly cheaper to manufacture than enamel, right? So everything about that can screams, let's gouge the stupid customers.
Yeah.
And like, it's offensive,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And in the end, they're going to do okay because they have the shelf space. They got Walmart and they got all this, and like they'll still sell like zillions of cans.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to be honest, from when I first saw it, I was like, what a crock of shit.
yeah,
That was my first reaction. I was like, there's no fucking way.
I'm speaking purely as a user of the materials, not as my professional capacity.
Yeah.
It's not made for graffiti.
Yeah.
It doesn't work good. Even when you start moving fast and try to do it, it starts to sputter. You know?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Cat Match's color definitely got me into collecting cans, seeing what they were doing. So I bought one for my collection just to have, because I have other, Scotties from the, 90s, 2000s. But other than that, I was like, no, there's no way,
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, like I said, I mean, really, I'm completely addicted to you guys, not just because I'm sitting here with you, but like literally.
Yeah. I mean, it makes doing the work easier. It's more efficient.
Yeah.
Right? And then not just MTN, but some of the other brands too,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, I mean, I've used everything across.
Graffiti's takes a lot of work. So you got to make it as easy and hassle free as possible. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, MTN's for sure always been my favorite, and it's like OG. I fuck with it, like legacy love.
Yeah. And also, I mean, for me, it's like, they started the movement of graffiti spray paint. They were the first.
Yeah.
It was started by writers, purely because the paint that was available did not work good. It wasn't designed to work good. It was designed to sell paint.
Yeah.
The formulas of all the big names, it just went down, down, down. They started thinning it out more and more and more.
Yeah.
It started to run more, started to cover less. It's all about like the bottom line for their corporate.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, no, we're going to make paint that actually works for the way we want it to.
Yeah.
And Montana is like a small company. They didn't really make a lot of money, and like,
yeah.
The margin is extremely small, like when we first started out and people would be like, hey, I want to buy like bulk, and how can you get it down to this price? And it's like, bro, that's not possible. It's like the metal of the can costs more than what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like I'd get like ridiculously requests, like, how come we can't get it down to like 99 cents?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, listen, you sound foolish.
Yeah.
Like,
no, yeah. I got, my buddy Adam, at 14th Street Supply in Oakland. Obviously sells Montana, and like just having conversations, just business conversations, just being like, man, that's crazy. Like how little of a margin there is on spray paint, but
yeah. And I mean, the graffiti stores make more money off the spray paint than Montana does per can. There's no question about
retail, it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a good store and in a good location where there's a lot of graffiti, man, you're doing better than maybe we are. I mean, as like an individual,
Sure. Cost per can and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you got a good thing going, and a couple people locked it in, and good for them,
So getting back to you specifically, with all the graffiti that you've done throughout the years, traveling the world, obviously being, at the forefront of distribution here in America, which is, the birthplace of graffiti. What are some of the things that still inspire you, today to kind of like keep you going? I mean, is it, the familiarity, like, what's like that, what keeps the addiction going?
Well, for one thing, it's all I've known in my adult life, right? Like I think I said that before. It's all I know, and I love it, and it's how I've formed all of the best friends in my life.
Yeah,
best friendships I've had of my life, and even when I'm not. I mean, there's been some times where I didn't, where I got arrested and I took a break, or this most recently. I took a long break. I took 5 years off of painting. And people were going to hear that, like, basically, you stopped writing. I'm like, yeah, I did, but I still worked at Montana. And the reason is, like, I bore myself out. I burnt it out. Like, I was doing freights, like, constantly out late, super night. I mean, I paint mostly solo because that's how you get the most work done. Mm-hmm. And it started to become a job. Yeah. It started to not be fun. And I was going to riskier and riskier spots and always have that feeling looming over your head. Yeah. Like, dude, how many times can I push this? It's like, you can only flip the coin so many times. Right.
Right.
And then, I'm like getting ready to go out and I have a wife and a son there and I'm like leaving them there to like go out in the night alone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? All my friends that I respect, they already know I can paint. I got nothing to gain. And I'm like, I'm only like impressing people that I don't even know. And so if I'm not in love with what I'm doing in the moment, then why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And so I stopped. And also at the time I had gotten into like stock trading and shit and like crypto and all that shit. And like, man, that's like gambling. And like, it was like depressing me. It was like you win and you lose it all. And then you win it all and then you lose it all. And it just, the back and forth of it was like getting like depressing and shit,
Yeah.
There are a lot of things were just, also I had stopped drinking. And so I was going for this last year, like painting without drinking and I could do it fine. I got over it. Right. But then I had the thoughts of like, I could get into a lot of trouble. It started to come more, which just, I had masked that with the drinking. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And it wasn't party graffiti anymore,
Yeah.
So I decided, I didn't say I'm done with graffiti. I was like, I'm not going to paint for a while. I'm going to chill. I'm going to see if I can turn this energy into something else. It's like something else. I don't know what it is, but like maybe the trading or professional art or who knows, man, like, gym, stuff like that. And all, the whole time my crew's like, dude, Jake, we're going, come with us. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. And they're like, years went by and they're like, dude, really? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, I'll be back one day, man. It ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, graffiti's always there.
It's not going nowhere. Plus, I'm here at Montana, so I'm
You're
around
graffiti
all the time, and it got to the 5-year point, and I got all the way to the point where I was like, you know what? Maybe that time in my life is over. Maybe I'll never write again. And like, I never had been like, since like 90, I had one sketchbook when I was in Baltimore, After that book was done, I never sketched or wrote tags or nothing. The only graffiti I did was live on the street or in a freight yard.
Damn.
So there was no like graffiti at home,
Yeah.
Or maybe if I was like on a bender and dudes were in my apartment, we're like writing,
get on a canvas or something like that.
We'd be like scribbling on paper and shit.
Yeah.
But other than that, there was no practicing.
Yeah.
It was all live,
Okay.
So in that 5 years, there was no graffiti in my house. There was no, I wasn't looking at it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Just when I came to work,
Yeah.
So yeah, got to that point where I was like, I think that's it. It's out of my system.
Within those 5 years, you didn't even do like legal walls or nothing like that?
No,
just completely
nothing.
Wow. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I also didn't travel very much because I was trying to save money and things like that. My son was a little bit younger. It was even harder to travel.
Right.
So this past year, I went to Bangkok. And again, it's like I get there and it's like, fuck, man, it's crushed, you know? And I was super inspired. And just like you go to any city and you're like looking at spots, you're like, man, I want to get in on that. That looks so nice. That spot they got. And hit up my homies there and like, yeah, let's go paint, man. And I was like, I don't know for what reason. I'm like, sure, I'll go paint some street spots, right? Not even freights or anything. Like, let's go do some like, you know, street level filled-ins, like, you know, with cars going by and shit.
So 5 years straight back into the fire.
Yeah.
Sick.
So we did, and we got chased.
Fire.
Pretty hectic ass chase. Someone sprinting behind you, had to jump in a taxi, all that shit. And dude, I was like, man, that was so much fucking fun, dude. Let's go tomorrow, you know, like, dude, I was back. You know?
That's like, you never even left.
Thank you, Mutter and Bikos and Fever, my boys. And I came home from that trip, and man, I was like, yeah, time to check out some freights, you know?
Yeah.
And I hit up Beggar, my boy, and he was in LA, and he's like, I was like, you got some spots, man? Because the spots that I had been hitting previous to this were now like super hot from what I was told, and I didn't want to jump right into a hot frying pan, you know?
Yeah. So you want to talk to someone that's got a little lay of the land.
Yeah, because, you know, when you've gone to you routine places and you feel comfortable, but when you're like, nobody knows, like, oh, nobody's been in there a while because this happened and that happened or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit trippy on your mind, right? But not impossible. You do it anyway. So anyway, I went with Beggar, crushed. Man, from that night again, I'm like, all right, I'm back. I'm doing it. And I started going off, man.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. So from, you know, the 86 to 87 to, you know, starting distribution to traveling the world to crushing basically, you know, hundreds of thousands of freights, you know, how have you seen the culture change, you know, from back then to now, you know?
With graffiti in general, I mean, there's this common conversation that like the internet and Instagram and phones have changed style, because before there was, you know, identifiable hand styles and piecing styles from each city. There still is in Philly and in SF Bus Hopper.
Sure.
I can't think of any other ones at the moment, but there probably is.
Yeah.
That hadn't been diluted by all this outside influence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, it's really hard to see like the magnitude of so many writers in a place like LA. There's definitely a bunch of dudes in LA that have a traditional LA style, but not so many of the newest generation. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't seen the defined newest style yet. I can't really categorize it, you know? So there's that aspect, but then there's freights. You know, before it was like really only the major cities were the players, the crews from the major cities, you know, like you didn't really see much from like these small towns, or you didn't even know who it was, or you didn't take notice, you know? Mm-hmm. And Gray had said to me one time, and this was like a long time ago in the early 2000s, he was like, graffiti, he's like, freights is going to be like Revenge of the Small Town, you know? And I was like, he's like, well, you know, and it makes sense. And that's exactly what happened, you know, like, and now when you go to do trains, it's like, they're all fucking covered in like, dude, you know, like in the early 90s when BA started, and we also started AMF Crew, which meant A Metal Future.
Okay.
Because, you know, we wanted to see it look like the New York City subways one day, you know? Me and High, my partner at the time, and Wild. And now that it's like that, I don't think I like it very much. You know?
Yeah.
No.
You like seeing clean trains better?
I mean, not totally clean, but right. The feeling of seeing like half a clean train go, like, you know, like several cars go by, and then there's something like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
You know, now it's just like your head's on a swivel and you're like, what the fuck is all this shit? And like all these names I like.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, oh, that just means you're old and you haven't kept track of it. Like, no, there's like so many fucking names now that like people have barely painted like not very much. I mean, thousands and thousands of names, but they're still like the leaders, right? That you recognize them all through it all, but they're all crowded by all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I know some like young people that just started and be like, that's whack of him to say, but like, all right, well, you know, you need to figure out a way to make yourself stand out then.
Yeah.
Which will come for some of you.
Yeah.
You know? And like, you know, I never was like going over people before. And now it's like, if you want to do a piece, you have to, you know, right? So it's like a process of elimination. I don't really like having to do that, but it is what it is, right? And like,
yeah, and it's crazy how in freight culture, you know, it's been said before, but like, you know, you're doing 4-foot pieces and now you got to do like, you know, fucking 15 can fucking pieces. Yeah. You know,
you need a lot more paint.
Yeah. You got to do huge backgrounds to come over.
I don't like that part where you have to make this background that's not, if you had a clean train, would the background look like that? No, it wouldn't. And so that sucks, right?
Yeah.
I almost think that having the shit sticking out behind it looks better, except for you don't want to start some beef with somebody, right?
Yeah. Some random dude that you'll never meet that's going to like cross you out in the middle of America.
Right. So, you know, I try to play by the rules, like where it's like, okay, you know, throw up over tag and pieces over throw ups and whole cars over a piece, but it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just because you called it a piece does not mean it qualifies as a piece to me to be going over my throw up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's dudes that could do a piece over my throw up and I'll be, maybe we don't even know each other. Like, oh, he fucking rocked it.
Yeah.
You know, but other dudes, I'm like, I'm going to punch that dude in the face because like that shit is whack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just because you do 3 colors, if your letters fucking suck, why'd you go over my
right?
throat?
Or like they just started and it's like, dude, you have some hard lessons coming for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like, also it's like, I don't know if that, I want this to sound like ego or anything, but it's like there's something to be earned. Like I wouldn't do a burner over a JA throw up because he's earned that.
Yeah.
If you can understand
I completely agree.
The relation, you know what I mean? So I'm like, dude, you just started like 6 months ago. You don't, even if you are halfway decent, you haven't earned the right to go over my field and throw ups.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I completely agree with you with the rules, right? You know, throw a fill in or whatever over a tag, whatever piece over or throw a, but there's definitely levels to it. It's far more expansive than just that.
Exactly.
You know, there's you know, and then you know there's people there you're like, okay, yeah, like say for example, you know, there's a piece from a dude who, you know, painted it 30 years ago and those letters specifically are whack, but he's also put in the work for 30 years and he's way better. It's like, yo, let that shit run.
Exactly.
You know? Like, yeah, you can burn that from 30 years ago, but like that's been running for 30 years. Let that rock. Like, exactly. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. There's I've seen it time and time again, bro. I mean, you know, here in California, you know, I mean, obviously I'm from California and I love California riders, and, but you know, not to hate on California freight riders, but you know, it's got its reputation for like burning yards and going over, you know, people that have done stuff, and you know, so I've seen that shit firsthand, and I'm just like,
yeah. Plus, it's like a naivety that like you think that this person's never going to find you, and that's like that right there is very telling. That you think that this network that you have is very small, while other people are like, dude, I'm working on the whole country. You're working on one city, you know, like I can find you. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I mean, you know, I think maybe obviously back in the day, the world seemed a lot bigger, cause there wasn't as much of a connection, but I think realizing obviously with the internet, it's like, dude, it's, you know, we got a tiny little rock. And it's very quick, and before you know it, it's like you start, you know, 6 degrees of separation, right? You're just like, oh shit, you know this dude, and you know that dude, like this dude's on the other side of the world. You're like, and also I think there's a lot of like people get like a false, I don't want to say a false sense of their own accomplishment, but a false sense of who is doing what, because they only see what goes into the 1 or 2 yards that they go into, and they only see the Instagram. But that is very, how do you say it? Like, they're only seeing the people that they follow and the people that they, it's
Yeah.
compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And so even that is like a skewed view of what's really happening. Right. So only the most up people are the people who really know who's most up,
Yeah.
because they're the only ones that are out there all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. No, because I mean, just like you even said, it's like it's also dependent on the yard. Like there's yards that go like nationwide and like Mexico and Canada.
Exactly.
There's also just local yards. Like
Right.
that's like it only goes up like fucking 400 miles and that's about it.
Right.
So I completely agree with you on that aspect. Yeah. So I do want to get into a little bit of the user submitted questions. I think it'd be cool to like hit some of those and.
All right.
First one, Osama bin Rakin wants to know what's your favorite Canadian writer, if you have any.
Well, whenever people ask me about stuff like it's always people in my crew, of course.
Yeah.
Like the dudes in my crew, the dudes that I know personally, like, there's lots of good, and I really, sometimes I hate like when people ask, so I don't like naming people because other people feel slighted or somehow because, hey, I know Jay too. And I'm from there, like, and it's not like that, but like, Quest,
Yeah.
he's awesome. And like,
Yeah.
Sight and man, I don't want to get into the naming, the list of names because
Word.
I'll forget someone who deserves to be mentioned. And
Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Company Die, and this is obviously a reference to Infamy, but he goes, did you get sent a bunch of pistachio next time? I don't know if you remember that.
That was from Neon was saying that.
Yeah, you got to send us a bunch of pistachio.
Yeah, I don't know.
Word. Let's see here. How do you feel about, and this is one Doug Ong 23, how do you feel about the incoming generation of writers?
I mean, it's the same. It's the same in every generation.
Yeah.
Like there's just more of them now. The waves are getting bigger and bigger, right? So there's good and there's bad. There's some dudes who are naturals and learn really quickly and don't step on a lot of toes, and then there's other dudes that just make a mess. There's nothing has changed over the years with that. Mm-hmm. There's, I almost want to say, fewer guys who have a unique style. You're seeing less of that.
Yeah.
But there are some, you're seeing less of that. I mean, more power to them. I mean, I love graffiti. I want it, I wish, Freight's, it wasn't so smashed, but the new generation's cool. I just wish, just like every generation, do your homework a little bit better, man.
Yeah.
Have respect. And one thing I feel like graffiti's gotten a little less violent over the last decade. Like, there was like the
100%.
robbing of people, and then there was the tag banging thing. And I feel like we're past that shit now, and like, at the same time, I don't want to meet everybody when I go into the yard. You know what I mean? Like, and anyone that's listening to this, I mean, like, oh shit, I like introduce myself. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like, I just meant like in general, like people should just do your thing and paint and go home. Mm-hmm. And someone, you're like, oh, you guys have a mutual friend. Like, hey bud, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say what's up. But like when you have to meet like 5 different people when you're painting in an illegal spot, it seems odd to me.
Yeah, for sure. Like a Porch. This is actually non-graffiti, but I thought this is cool. Top 5 bands / rappers. If you can think of like, what are some of your favorite music
rappers?
influences?
I've been listening to Webby lately, and Run the Jewels is not, it's not super current, but Chris Webby I like. Mm-hmm. That shit's funny. And I mean, bands, I grew up around like metal and punk rock, Minor Threat and Circle Jerks and Slayer and Dead Kennedy. Love the fucking Dead Kennedys. And then, I listen to classic rock and Zeppelin and AC/DC and Van Halen Also like drum and bass music a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Word. Yeah. It's always cool listening to, what people like to listen to. Worldwide Hunger 88 says, for the rest of your life, would it be markers, scribes, or paint?
Paint.
Paint. Word. Let's see here. Pocket_toothbrush says, have you ever clapped cheeks in a yard?
No.
All right. Word. I'm trying to get one in the yard.
I've done some party graffiti, but not particular that party graffiti version.
Okay.
But I have some friends that definitely have.
Okay. _415 Drew says, what's like a crazy racking story?
Man, I was thinking about this the other day, and there's a lot. And a lot of times you just forget about shit until something reminds you. So I'll try and I think I have some short ones and some long ones, but a short version of one is like when I was coming up in Baltimore, when toys or the youngsters wanted to learn graffiti, people that just started, they're like, yeah, we want to go with you guys. Can you teach us? And blah, 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 whatever. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, well, we're going to take you racking and we're going to drive and you're going to do all the racking and we're going to get the paint, and that's how it was when you came up there. And I wouldn't be, I haven't heard of it lately, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's still going on here and there, maybe even around California and other cities, but this was a thing, right?
Yeah.
So one day me and my boy took this kid racking and we're in the car and waiting for him to come out, and he comes busting out, security right behind him. They tackle him. He maces them. And then they fall in like a pile right next to the car, like right next to the door. And we're sitting in the car just like looking down, watching it, and like, just like, oh, fuck, and they're struggling. He's fighting them and shit. And he eventually gets up and runs and gets away. Yeah. And we pull off and we get down the street and we get him in the car. And my boy's like, he's like, I'm going to fuck you up, dude. Why'd you run right to the fucking car? Which is a no brainer, right?
Yeah.
But he was, he just couldn't think fast enough because he just started, right?
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome. That's a pretty good one. Let's see here. Check says, first off, respect. Roughly how many JE throws have you done in your entire life? And I know that's something probably super crazy to like quantify. But
yeah, it's tough. I mean, I never purposely counted them. Like I never was going in the yard like number 43 and number 47. I never did that. But I could estimate by the amount of trains that were in spots and how many. I stopped doing that around 2005. It was over 150,000 at that point.
Holy
So
fuck.
I'm guessing like I'm thinking between 300,000 and 500,000 now, maybe
500,000 throwies,
maybe. But it's like slowed down a whole lot because like I said before, I could do hollows, right? And I could do so many more. Now I got to fill them in. And now, even now in these days, I got to go even bigger. I can only carry so much paint. There's less trains. There's less panels. I can't I try to paint auto racks more because there's more open spaces. Because I go to a boxcar spot. Yeah. There's pieces on all of them. Yeah. I'm not going to go over a piece with a filled in throw up. Even like, probably not even a whack piece. I'm going to do that too, Yeah. Unless there's like one where there's a corner's open, I can fit a JE 2 letters on the corner, Sure. I'll do that. But, someone's going to take that for a piece anyway. So, it's just harder to produce those numbers. But lately, like last month in March, I did 220 filled-ins on separate cars.
Last March?
Yeah. Just last month.
Fuck. That's so crazy, dude. Yeah, man, good for you, dude. That's definitely numbers. And I mean, like I said before, and
to me that sounds like terrible.
Terrible? Why?
Yeah, because I'm like 220 in a month. I'm like, I used to do 220, not filled in. Just the number of it feels like that isn't shit. Because there's so many. There's like, I think last I checked, over 2 million free cars in America. And that's just America. We also got Mexico now and Canada, right? So,
sure.
I mean, that ain't shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, I think I'd said it infamy. He's like, man, you can't have them all. But, like, how often do you see your train still connected afterwards? rarely, right?
Yeah.
So you have to imagine, like, okay, if I did 100 cars tonight, that means I'm in 100 a month later or 2 months down the road.
Yeah.
I'm in 100 different places, or I'm in 100 different trains in motion right now at the moment. So you try and like imagine it like that. So
Yeah.
you be like, okay, I'm almost any place where there's a train parked, I have at least one thing, or every train that's going by, I have at least one thing. I'm not saying I do, but that's the theory, right?
I mean, at 500,000 throwies, I'm going to say you got a good chance.
Yeah. I mean, if around the 2010 area, there was a time when I was traveling where like I was never running into trains going by where I didn't have one or two cars go by. Just about anywhere in America I was, right?
Yeah.
Which was fucking felt great, you know. And I got pretty cocky about it. Where I'd bet people like, you know, I'll bet you right now as this train's coming, I have a throw on it and shit.
Yeah, smoker, right? But money.
Yeah, we did that, and that was a real thing. Now, that's not such a safe bet anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have some shit running. I got, you know, I went to it was like 2 days ago, went to the yard. There was 2 cars there I had from 2016 with Big Five, and they were just 2 cars apart with 1 car in the middle.
Sick.
You know, which is, I mean, what are the odds? You know, but like
Yeah.
I said, the numbers add up. And I'm not the only one who can do it. Anyone can do it. It's just a matter of putting your time in.
Yeah. You've definitely had
and being methodical about it.
You've had a head start on the race, though.
Yeah, I mean, those first ones, they're all gone. I mean,
Yeah.
once in a while, one will pop up, and it's a miracle that it hasn't gone over like a hollow throw, right?
Yeah.
And plus, the age of the paint is,
Sure.
we really don't know. As far as I know, the oldest shit I've seen on trains is around 30 some years old. I mean, I don't think it can hold up much longer than that in the weather of any brand.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. I actually just flicked it was you and Big Five on one auto rack, and then on the other one it was you and Sess.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Well, forever_cuz says, do you know how many full letter throwies you've done?
Well, I would rarely do full 4-letter throwies at the beginning, but now this year I'm doing at least around 40% of my throws are all 4 letters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's something you like kind of recently more into?
Because I got to go bigger, because I got to make it more prominent, so people think twice about going over it and take up more space, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't be like, someone's like, oh man, I can fit in. I also don't like, nobody does, people cramming up right next to you, you know what I mean? Like, of course you're gonna hit the same train, not a big deal. But dude, don't be like tucking your letters up right into mine. You know, nobody likes that shit.
No, for sure. Yeah. Give me like a foot.
Right. So that's why the 4 letters comes into play a little bit more.
Okay. Excuse me. Always Forget One says, what was the best era of freight graffiti in your opinion?
I think there's a couple different ones. I think for me, my personal was the 95 era. And that was because like there was like one crew in each major city, and you could go the train line, and maybe a whole train would go by with 100 boxcars and it would be clean.
Yeah.
But then the next one would come and there'd be like, you know, a sign 5 and calves or something. And you'd be like, whoa, you know? And it was like, it was so much more impactful and meaningful. And then when someone said they saw you somewhere, you're like, what? That's awesome. You know, like, and it just
much less likely back then.
Yeah. And, I love that era. And then there's the next generation where, you know, the trains weren't killed, but you'd see like several pieces go by. And the style started to change a little bit. And right when first people started to do whole cars, you know, like now that's pretty common, but like,
it was much more impactful then.
Yeah. And I think that was around, I want to say around 05 ish.
Okay.
People started doing whole cars, but you know, nobody was specializing in whole cars, you know?
Yeah. I mean, no one asked this, but I'm just curious. Have you, how many whole cars have you done?
I've done one whole car.
One.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you just do like a roller or like a?
I did it was a box car, but I mean I used roller paint, but it wasn't like a block letter roller style.
Oh, okay.
I did a piece letters and I filled it in with roll paint.
Okay.
Me and Cycle went and in the bay, and we did 2 adjoining box cars.
Sick.
Took all night, and I mean it was a shit show. We forgot our pan, the bucket.
So you're just dipping.
It wasn't a big bucket. So we dug a hole and poured the paint into the hole in the ground and shit.
So fire.
And I mean, it took all night with a ladder. I don't even think we had an extension. And so,
shit.
At the end of the night, I was like, "Fuck whole cars." You know, I was like, "That was a fucking pain in the ass."
What year was that?
I was around 05, I think. And
Okay.
I mean, Cycle definitely burned me. He always did. He's super good. And
Yeah.
they got around. I saw flicks of it. I even know where the train ended up and got scrapped at in Florida.
Oh, so it's not even running anymore.
No,
Oh.
I don't know what Cycles is, but mine's not anymore. But it did go. It had its lifetime.
Yeah. How long do you think it ran for? Or like if you know when it was
I mean, I
scrapped?
think probably around 10 years at least. I don't know.
Shit. They held up pretty well. Did you see like flicks and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's flicks of it in different places. I got flicks of it from over the
Sick.
years from different people.
Yeah.
People try to get me to go do some whole cars in the last, like before I had taken that break and now recently. And I think I might go do one. Like, I don't know about when I see them, few of them are like, wow, they really did it right. Just like any graffiti, right?
No.
But really, like, the first thing comes to my mind is like, fuck, that's so much work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
You know what I mean?
It is a lot of work for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done just only, and I've never done a whole car, but like even just the few rollers that I've done, I'm like, fuck, I'm exhausted. You know? So it's like to actually sit there and be like, I have to commit to this space. You know?
Yeah. I was thinking about it like a little differently. Like I'd recently been at this spot and I just got there, did one filled in, and like 2 cars down, there's a guy, he's doing a double whole car on auto
shit.
rack, right? By himself. And something happened and we both get chased at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I have to run, hide, all this shit. Come back. Everything was good. I blew over, got our paint. Mm-hmm. He went back to doing what he was doing, and I went back to what I was doing. And I rallied the whole line, filled ins all the way to the end, and then came back. And by the time I got back, he was done. He was gone already. The 2 double whole car was finished, and I was like, holy shit. So, I'm to calculate in my mind, like, okay, 40 cars or 2 whole cars.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, dude, you got to bring a Graco with you and just fucking spray it out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's, obviously now you can have a lot more different styles of tools to like get it done more efficiently.
Yeah. I mean, I got access to the paint.
Yeah.
But like,
now when you did it with Cycle, did you do your fill in with roller and then spray paint outline?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've never outlined a piece with roll paint in my life.
Just curious, a little 3-inch roller.
Nope, never.
Okay. Word. Let's see here. Someone said, how did the Supreme collab come about?
Okay, so that was a German Montana thing, and it wasn't a collab. That wasn't
German Montana.
That was an artist that produced those on his own and like displayed them as like a performance thing, like his own artwork. I think he also did Gucci and some other shit at the same time.
But they weren't official.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fire. That's awesome. All right. Yeah. So what did
unless there's been little things like maybe like a small, I think I saw like a small can, maybe they did the Germans, but I'm pretty sure the one he's talking about, and I remember it was a red one. There was also there was a Gucci one, there was a Louis one, there was something else, and they all came out at the same time. And that was just from one guy who just took that upon himself.
And he did like your stuff, or did you collaborate with them?
No, he did that with the German cans and then put their logo on it too.
Oh.
To make it look like a limited edition. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Word. Fuck. There was just a question that I was just. I did want to ask, because you said that the timeline was that you took like a 5-year break. How was COVID for you as far as like graffiti?
That was during that time.
Yeah.
So I wasn't out taking advantage of that.
Oh, okay. So not at all. You stopped before COVID?
Yeah. It was during, yeah. So I was here at Montana, so I witnessed, I know, like I saw the jump, and plus there was like all that free money from the government, which a lot of people spent on spray paint.
Yeah.
And like I saw the surge.
Oh, okay. So you had a surge.
I witnessed it.
Damn.
And I know how much shit got done,
Yeah. Yeah, I got over on COVID.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, sick. Those are all the user submitted questions that I have. Well, there are more, but we've touched based a lot of them. And then, a lot of them were like, what's this favorite writer? What's that? And so obviously I wasn't going to touch base on those. Just because you're like, I don't want to like name people.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite writers are the dudes in my crew. I mean, the biggest influences in my life, obviously, was that guy Jam One, Shaken, from the very beginning, and then following that, it was like Joker Transcend, who's also in BA. He's a big influence on my piece letters and stuff. Cycle, big influence on my piecing.
Yeah.
Zeke Hand Styles from Baltimore, Dream. Philly Hand Styles, the LA style, like San Francisco bus hopper style. Like I can do a tag and I can literally look at it and be like, this part is from Baltimore. This part is from San Francisco.
Damn.
This part is from Philly. Like I can see it in each tag I do, like.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the questions I do like to ask is, just kind of like, in a way, like, stuff for the youth, advice and stuff like that. So like, if you could go back in time and talk to, your younger self, what would be some advice that you'd give to yourself? Well,
definitely I would say to chill out on the drinking, because nearly every time I've been arrested is because of alcohol. I definitely, and also, done tons of sloppy ass graffiti. I could have done so much better shit. I could have done more shit. I would have said to be a little bit more smarter about your money. I've definitely always been like a live for the day kind of guy. Like I'm going out for the night, dude, wherever the night takes me, I'm all in. Everything seems like a great idea after 3 drinks, like, let's go, no planning whatsoever, life planning. I mean, and like, probably would have done a little bit more traveling. Definitely would have done more traveling at a younger age and things like, I mean, I could have done subways in New York if I had gotten it didn't occur to me like, dude, let's drive to New York and paint the trains. It was still happening,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody did that, like,
yeah.
Cause like you look at that shit and you're thinking like, oh, that looks fucking dangerous. Like you're thinking like, not the danger of like the trains itself. It's the people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like New York is scary, but you know what I mean? When you look at like the Star Wars and shit and you're like,
yeah,
it's like, whoa, man, that's like a world I don't know nothing about. I need to be careful there. I'm not going to just show up and be like, hey guys, where's the train yard?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You got to earn your chops. Otherwise you'll get eaten alive.
Right. So it didn't occur to me that I could have participated in that.
Yeah.
If I had looked at it from a different way when I was younger,
Yeah.
Probably a lot of people in that same category now.
For sure. And then, with graffiti, I always like asking, kind of going off of the 18-year-old self, or like, your younger self, what helps you kind of have that balance between graffiti and everyday life, so that it is something that you can manage your life, get your shit taken care of, but also still be able to contribute to like the graffiti scene, like that work-life balance.
Yeah. I mean, well, at first, like half the graffiti career, I was just racking, and there was no balance. It was all graffiti, right? And partying.
Yeah.
But then I got a decent job. I started going to college. I was like, all right, if I want to do graffiti, I'm just going to have to be tired, because like I got to go to work, and I got to go to night school, and I got to go paint, and I got to do all these things. That's just the way it is. And I just did it. Right. And now it's like, I gotta, you gotta like pay more attention. Like, all right, well, I'm not going to go street bombing, because the last thing I need is a case. Doesn't mean you're going to get caught, but you got to look at spots a little bit different. You can go hit streets, and there's spots that it's not getting documented, right?
Yeah.
You know the difference between like a spot that's going to build a case and one that isn't.
Yeah.
But freights is like, nobody's showing up in the morning and be like, call the police,
No.
And then, so there's that part. And then, it's like, I can't be tired at work all the time, because I got job to do, and it's important, and I could fuck up, and something really big could get fucked up. And I'm a father. I can't tell my son, I'm too tired because I was out painting last night to take you to play basketball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wife's not going to hear that shit either. You got to enjoy life. So I try to balance it the best I can. It's not easy. The older I get, it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
But I'm managing it.
Fuck yeah, dude. All right, and let's see here. I mean, I guess that's fuck. I hate when I'm listening to you and I'm like excited about your answer, you know. So I'm like
Right.
obviously giving you the attention, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Like I have the next question in my head where I'm like, I also want to take in what you're saying, and then I forget. ADHD, dude. Shit's real. Oh, I was gonna ask you, fucking, you know, we've obviously talked about a little bit of chasing this and that, but is there anything memorable that you're like, fuck, that was close? Like, you know, really like a, you know, that one chase story that you're like, oh shit.
Man, I have lots, and like I said, like the racking thing. It's like sometimes I gotta get something will spark my memory, but I've had all kinds of different things happen.
Mm-hmm.
One time in Baltimore, I was with Shaken, and we went to go do this freeway spot, and it was like in between the off ramp and 95, which is the main freeway on the East Coast, and it wasn't that super late at night, and he had this dude with him who was tripping on acid, and he's going to look out for us. So we're like, okay, you know, we start filling in, and this dude didn't look out, obviously.
Sure.
And I was painting the closest to the freeway side,
Okay.
right that was to my left. Cars were coming from behind us, you know.
Okay.
A cop pulled right up and stopped right where we are, and he jumped out, and he was jumping up onto the barrier to you know, maybe
Grab
like
you.
6 feet away from me, right?
Yeah.
And so Jakin went to the right, which was the easy way across the off ramp and down, you know, over a fence, but I had to go the other way, which was across all
Oh fuck.
8
So you're like
lanes.
dodging cars too.
all 8 lanes of the freeway.
Yeah.
Right. So I ran that way. Also had to jump, you know, barbed wire fence at speed. Ran down this hill. Ran through this neighborhood. And I mean, as soon as I got into the street, I knew it wasn't the police. There was another guy yelling, "Stop." And I knew the cop didn't run across the free. I wasn't looking over my shoulder because I almost got hit by a car. So I didn't think it was the cops, but I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Maybe it was like another cop that came street level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ran through a couple yards, and then I hid in this yard under this porch, right? The second dude was chasing me. He was yelling in the neighborhood, "Hey, blah, 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 this dude, this guy, this and that." People came out. They went looking through the yards. I couldn't get up and run right then because they were like right there.
Yeah.
They came, found where I was hiding, right? 3 dudes and some woman. Dudes instantly grabbed me, and both of them grabbed my hoodie sleeve by the wrist and twisted it and had me like stretched out, like both arms, right?
Oh fuck.
And the woman had a baseball bat, and he goes like, "Hit him." And I was like, "What the fuck? Get off me," you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the guy who was chasing me, he's like, that guy's from the insurance company, and he was fucking taking photos of me from the freeway and shit. These motherfuckers, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the fuck are they talking about, you know?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, no, he's not. He's a fucking burglar and all this shit. And like, I was like trying to figure out what the fuck. And that's like they think 2 different things is going on. Neither of them is what was happening, you know? And I was less worried about getting arrested than getting hit with this bat at the time, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And the cops come, and I had my bag still. There was no paint in it, but there was a pilot marker in there, and the cops were talking, and the cop says to the other cop, "This is for his outline," you know? I'm like,
And doing freeway shots with a fucking pilot worker?
Yeah.
That's so fire.
yeah. So I'm just like, oh my God, what the fuck, you know? So then he's like, "Let him go." And they're like, "What do you mean let him go?" He's like, cops like, "I said, release him."
The people? Like the 2 dudes that were holding you?
Yeah. And the cop
So
was,
at this point, they know that you were like being chased from the
it was
freeway.
a different jurisdiction because now it's a county police or
Oh,
city
shit.
police. Up top, it was toll police, right? The freeway police.
Oh, fuck.
And so, but he knew that it was graffiti related. They probably got on the radio.
Sure,
But he
yeah.
wasn't like, "I'm going to hold you for these guys."
Yeah.
He was just like, "You know what? All right, you got lucky. So just get the fuck out of here," you know? And I just like walked away from there like, what the fuck just happened, you know?
Dude. Dude. Oh, that's so good, dude. So, I mean, like, at that point, you're just like, fuck, I'm just walking back.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't trying to go back and finish or anything.
Yeah, of course not. But you're like, fuck, I'm done for the night.
Yeah, I went and called my boy, and he was already back at his house, and I was like, dude, and he was like, holy shit, you got away? I was like, yeah, and he was like, what?
I'm at the house. I'm in my sofa right
Yeah.
now. Fuck, that's crazy. Did you go there with him? He like drove?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So fuck, you were just like left behind.
I mean, he was on the other side of the freeway. There was no way that, you know.
No, I get it. I mean, when it comes to a chase, it's like it really every man for himself, you know. Like,
Yeah.
hopefully, we can figure it out at the end. Fuck, dude, that's crazy. That's hella fun. Good thing you didn't get the shit kicked out of you by this lady with the bat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fucking awesome. Okay, well, word, fucking, yeah. I mean, that's a great chase story for fucking painting. I mean, you know, any close calls while racking? I mean, obviously, you know, you told me there's times where you've gotten, you know, wrapped or whatever, but like,
I've never had like where security grabbed me or anything like that. I mean, I've had like, I mean, I was thinking the other day, I had done this rack return. I would go to like, when I was in Concord, right? I'd go to like Oakland or all around the Bay, steal like color laser printer toner, right? Cause they're like worth
expensive. Yeah.
It's expensive, right? And they're small. And then rack and return it. And so one day I go in there and they're just like, man, fuck out of here. You don't even have this printer. And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, prove it. Bring the printer, dude. And I was like, okay. So I just went to Macy's, bought the printer. I didn't rack it. I bought it on a credit card, right? Took it in there and like, yeah, see, motherfucker, you know? And they're like, oh shit, my bad, you know? They gave me the money and then I just went right back to the store and returned the printer. And like,
yo, that's fucking G, dude. That's fucking great. Oh man. Yeah, fucking shit like that is so awesome, man.
yeah.
I would love to see the look on the face of the dude that was like, oh shit, he actually brought the printer. But did you bring it in like in the box and everything?
I took it out of the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I put it back in to return it. It was no problem.
Oh, that's hella funny, dude. Fucking Macy's. That's great. Shit, dude. I'm like tearing up on that. That was funny. All right. Well, fuck, dude. Like, yeah, I mean, at this point, like, I have all my answers. Oh, well, I say that towards the end, but like, yeah, I mean, is there anything that you personally would like to add onto the episode? You know, like things that you wanted to talk about, or you made notes in your head that you're like, oh, I want to like say this or whatever.
No, I mean, like, it's because I was talking about this with Gray last night, not the interview, but this topic is like, because of infamy and because of what I did with freights, people still see me as the freight guy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, I like bombed cities. Like that was my thing. Like I go on all city in like multiple cities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I did it. I know all about that. I can do it if I want to, you know, like,
yeah,
I just took the freights because I saw an opportunity and I ran with it, you know?
Sure.
People don't, if you weren't there to see it, then you didn't see it. And like,
yeah,
especially like in the early, 90s, even in SF, it's like there's a period there where shit wasn't documented very well.
Yeah.
You know, and like if you weren't there to see it, you don't know.
Yeah.
But there's people out there that fucking went all city and you've never heard of them. You know what I mean? And like,
oh yeah, 100%.
I still in the Bay and in Oakland and San Francisco, people get this spot and I'm like, I had that first.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's a good feeling. I'm not like, you know, other people, tons of people have that same feeling.
Sure,
know?
sure.
But the point is, I spent my time on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when I was talking to Renos, because we're trying to set up piece by piece at the Roxy Theater.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just talking to him in general, and he's like, "Yeah, what are you doing this weekend?" I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in SoCal. I'm interviewing Jase." He's like, "Oh, dude, when that dude came to SF, it was like." It was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's like killing everything. So, you know, going off of what you're saying, obviously, like, yo, I put my time in the street. I mean, the people that were there obviously saw it, you know, and Renos definitely gives you your kudos because he was like, you rock the streets. And obviously there's no freight in SF. I mean, there was back then, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
There's South City and barely, and that spot's where I go on now.
Oh,
it was all Oakland.
Yeah, no, I mean the South City yard. When I moved back from LA, I lived on Grand and Linden, You know, I'm sure obviously you know that area fairly well because you're there for so long. But you know the liquor store right there on the corner of Grand and Linden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I lived right above it.
All right.
So so I wasn't far from the warehouse, and so I mean, you know, that spot had been burnt way before I even got there.
Yeah.
You know, but you know there was some cool shit running there that I was like able to flick over time. But yeah, dude, that's sick. You know that obviously like you know you put in that work and traveled all over the world. I mean no one does not know your name. You know, I mean it's obviously hard to like sum up. You know. What 40 years now of graffiti, you know, in like just a few hours,
right?
But you know, I'm obviously grateful for you have you know the ability to sit down and give us a few stories.
Thank you,
and
man.
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
fun.
Yeah, if there's anything else you want to add on or shout outs to anybody, you know.
I was thinking just because the things that sparked me because I was just talking to someone last night, and like I said, there's so many stories, and then you get reminded of things when people remind you of something. And someone was talking about some of the charges I got, and like I was saying that when I came back from Asia, I had to go to court, you know, and I got caught painting freights in Oakland, and it was in the same exact spot where I had gotten chased with a Vade that I was talking about. And
I did have a question about infamy, but yeah, go ahead.
And infamy, same exact spot.
Okay.
And
where you like ran through the house, or was it a Vade
yeah,
that ran through the
the
house?
same exact spot, but this is like years later, right?
Oh, okay.
So I'm there with Jibs and Brews. We do a piece.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking back to the car, and we're walking along this like slotted fence. You can't really see it, and it was kind of like V-shaped, where you get to the corner and you make a U-turn right around it.
Okay.
And when we got to that corner, 2 cops were coming from around the corner, so we bumped into them basically like head first, like they're like, oh shit, and
they knew what you were already up to, like
they were coming, and so we take off, and quickly the cops, there was 2 cops, went for both of them, and like it was so dark that they like all 4 of them disappeared into the blackness like so fast, and I kind of stopped like, oh shit. Let me go double back, right?
Yeah.
So I went to double back and come back, go around that fence. And when I turned that fence, here comes 2 more. And so I'm like, oh, fuck. So I turn around, and this time I try to run diagonally across the tracks, the other side of the spot. Okay. And while I'm running up to the tracks, here comes 2 more running across the tracks. But these 2 have assault rifles out.
Oh, fuck.
And they got right up to me. And man, I know this sounds crazy, but like I was kind of drunk, and I was thinking, he stopped, and he had the barrel like 2-3 inches away from my face, you know?
Whoa.
And in my head, I'm thinking, he's way too close. I could just grab the gun and shit, you know? And like, it sounds like fucking some psycho stupid shit. And it was, because I was drunk, but I had that moment of clarity, and I was like, you got me. You know, like, all right, you got me. Mm-hmm. You know, and I got locked up. Caught a bunch of charges. Those guys got away.
Damn.
Yeah.
You did remind me, actually, obviously we're talking about infamy. There's 2 questions that I have. When you're walking the tracks, you go, oh, I like this Beats. It's pretty fresh. Uh-huh. Did you ever paint with him or meet him?
Yeah, we've met.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Did you meet him prior to that, or like? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So you already knew, and you were like just pointing it out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sick. And then when you are sitting there and you're benching, right? Yeah. And you're like, yo, I just had like 8 cars on that line. One of them you did say, obviously, yo, I hit that up in Baltimore and like whatever.
Yeah.
But any of them did you hit prior to that infamy? Like was that line just rolling, or was it like, oh, you went and smacked some spots and then you were benching?
And the video footage was from like 3 different lines from the day going by from both directions, and I had multiple cars on both lines from all over the country. From I hit on the East Coast, some on the West Coast, some in Texas. Like, I mean,
yeah. So you did hit none of those, obviously, prior to the filming of you sitting there benching.
No,
they were just like all like
no, they
priors.
were all years old that were going by.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those were the 2 questions that I forgot to ask.
So yeah, man, like I just want to give props to my wife and son for putting up with it, and like my son, who's like now he's up. His name is Major. He's at that age now, like where he sees me going out at night to do this, and I have to have that conversation with him, like, hey man, you know, like I know this is totally opposite of what you're being taught in school. and all this stuff, you know, but like,
Yeah.
this is my life and this is all my friends' lives, and we love what we're doing, and we're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
And this is our thing, you know, and he understands. And so thank them for the patience, and props to my crew, BA crew, FGS crew, NSF crew, TDK crew, D30, 3030 guys, WGE, worst guys ever, IHU, AMF, all my boys.
Yeah. Sick, dude. And then the last question that I always like to ask is, you know, what would be your last meal?
Man, I'm gonna have to go with Maryland crab cakes and Philly cheesesteaks.
Okay, so real cheese or cheese whiz?
Man, real cheese. I know there's some hardliners on cheese whiz, and even putting ketchup on cheesesteaks in Philly and stuff, but no, I gotta go with like provolone and steak.
Okay,
Yeah.
word. Yeah, I always like to ask because sometimes people bring that up, and I'm like, all right, I've never been to Philly, but like, you know, I've obviously seen the debates, you know, like Food Network and shit like that. So I
Yeah.
just gotta ask. Okay, cool, man. Well, shit, dude, that's all the questions that I have. You know, I can't say it enough again. You know, thanks for, you know, obviously allowing me to come down here to SoCal, hang out here at Spray Planet. You know, sit down here in your office and record, you know, your history. I'm really truly grateful for learning more about you and going in depth. And so,
Right on. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for coming on the show, dude. Other than that, you know, I always at the end give you know, like sources. So, you know, I don't know if you want to say your Instagram or anything like that.
My Instagram is at uncle_Jase.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I'm on there a little bit more now. When I was not spraying, I even took a break from IG because that can wear you out.
Yeah.
But I'm on there a little bit now. You can find me there. And, you know, sprayplanet.com also.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you got coming up that you're like working on as far as like your own personal projects?
For me personally, in my personal life, no, not really. Just painting. For Montana, we got some things in the works. I can't really divulge that right
Sure,
now,
yeah,
but there's always something in the can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. Fucking, you know, big shout out to Montana, Spain.
Yeah.
To make that
MTN, Montana,
distinction.
Spain.
Yeah. Yeah. Sprayplanet.com for all your paint needs. And then as far as me, if, you know, coming off of a search or anything like that, you can find me Bay Area Graffiti. That's Bay_area_graffiti on Instagram for like photography and stupid fucking memes. My personal graffiti, What's Your Name, but name spelled Naym, which is just Myan backwards. And then, you know, if you go to those pages, there's like a link tree where it'll give you all of, you know, the different links. And then just, I got to say it again because it's obviously my livelihood and I got to pay bills, but leftcoastsigns.com for all your sticker needs, holographic, eggshell, vinyl, all kinds of laser cut and whatnot. So let me know if you need some stickers. Other than that, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thanks,
Peace.
guys.
What is this rush thing? What is the rush that you get from it?
The ultimate rush, nothing can beat it, no drugs, no nothing.
Are you the kind of person who goes up on those signs on the freeway?
Yeah, more than anyone.